Chapter 5:15. Seeing that Jiang Tian had brought Zhang Yilin out, Chen Zifan quickly got out of the car and opened the door for them. "Master Kong, Ms. Zhang, please get in." Zhang Yilin was startled when she saw Chen Zifan. She exclaimed, Brother, why is he here? Are you a mother hen?" "Ha." Jiang Tian couldn't help but laugh. "What are you afraid of him for? Don't be fooled by his ferocious appearance. Right now, he's my coachman and chauffeur." Zhang Yilin thought that Chen Zifan would be annoyed. This was the young master of the Chen family, Chen Zifan. No one dared to offend him. He was like a crab that could do whatever he wanted. In Beijing, he could be said to be omnipotent. No, to be exact, he was the sky. Anyone who could recognize him would be omnipotent. Unexpectedly, Chen Zifan burst into tears. He was so touched that he looked like a child. He opened his mouth and sobbed, "I didn't expect that I could be Master Zhang's driver and groom. I always thought that I was a dog." "So, he's really a driver? Is it working?" Zhang Yilin was shocked. Her cousin was so powerful that he could even control Chen Zifan. Was he still human? Of course. You can try it if you don't believe me. Miss Zhang, if you have any orders, just say it. Chen Zifan patted his chest. He had to get on Zhang Yilin's good side. He wanted to hurt her in the past. If she said anything, he would lose his head. "Give me the car." Zhang Yilin looked at the red Hermes Bugatti Veyron and her eyes lit up with greed. She reached out and smiled stiffly. She loved cars. She got her driver's license after graduating from high school. She used to buy a Volkswagen Golf, but after her father was fired, she couldn't afford it and sold it. She knew that this Hermes Bugatti Veyron was a top-notch luxury car. One tire cost 200,000 yuan. For tires could buy a BMW. The whole car was priced at 43 million yuan and was known as the most expensive sports car in history. Why was it so expensive? There was no need to mention the various technical parameters. They were all Bugatti Veyron's latest technology. Moreover, the interior and styling of the car were all provided by the renowned Hermes Group. The interior was completely handmade, and the dashboard was wrapped in calf leather. Just the leather wrapping of the steering wheel took more than 10 hours. Therefore, only one car was produced every month, and there were about 14 cars a year. It had just been released, and there was probably only one car in the whole of Huaxia. Its appearance was also extremely beautiful. Half of it had the sharp posture of a super sports car, while the other half had the appearance of a round pebble on the beach. This sports car seemed to have appeared out of nowhere and descended from the sky. It was filled with a sci-fi vibe, but in fact, it had a long history and was intriguing. The top-notch craftsmanship of Hermes and designer Gabriel Pezzini gave the old Bugatti sports car a brand new line and attitude. It was precisely because Zhang Yilin knew the preciousness and scarcity of this car that she thought Chen Zifan might not be willing to part with it, so her smile was a little unnatural. If he refused, then she would say that she was joking. Unexpectedly, the tears that Chen Zifan had just wiped away rolled down again. Zhang Yilin was shocked. "Why are you crying?" "Stingy guy, if you don't want to part with it, then don't. I was just joking with you. Who would really want it?" No. Chen Zifan put his hands in front of his chest and shook them quickly. He said with a panicked face, "I'm happy, these are tears of joy. You don't know, I've always wanted to give something to Master Kong, but he didn't like it at all. Finally, I can give it away. How can I not be happy? I'll take a taxi first. You can give me your ID card later. I'll help you with the car transfer procedures and get the license." He stuffed the key into Zhang Yilin's hand and ran away, for fear that Zhang Yilin would return the car to him. "Brother, am I dreaming?" Zhang Yilin held the key. Her little head was dizzy, and the happiness in her heart was overflowing. She could not hold it in, and it was overflowing. "Do you want me to pinch you?" Jiang Tian said. "I'll pinch you." Zhang Yilin pinched Jiang Tian's waist fiercely. Jiang Tian grimaced in pain and gasped. "It seems to be true. Brother, this car is mine. That's great. More than 40 million. I'm a little rich woman." Zhang Yilin could no longer control the smile on her face. She hugged Jiang Tian, kissed him, and jumped in the snow. Money grubber, Jiang Tian was speechless. You should have said so earlier. It's just a sports car. I'll give you as much as you want. The two of them got in the car. Zhang Yilin started the car and stepped on the gas. The red sports car sped away. Damn, this feeling of pushing back, it's so smooth, it's so stable. This feeling of speed, it's like flying a plane. This interior, TSK, how many Hermes bags can it be taken down? If the girls in our dormitory saw this, they would be so jealous. Ha! Zhang Yilin cheered excitedly. She kept introducing all kinds of data and technologies to Jiang Tian, as if she was a silly child who had just gotten her favorite toy. Jiang Tian stood at the side, smiling without saying anything. He had a private jet, a flying sword, and even played with interstellar battleships and sports cars in his previous life. He really didn't care about those things. Deep down, this cousin of his was still quite vulgar. Looking at Zhang Yilin's eyes, he thought so. However, a gratified smile appeared on his face. He could understand Zhang Yilin's joy and excitement. He was also happy to see Zhang Yilin like this. She drove a sports car, liked speed, liked makeup and beautiful clothes. She could laugh and cry whenever she wanted. This made Jiang Tian feel a sense of vitality and vitality. Young girls should be like this. They first went to a big shopping mall and bought a new set of clothes for Zhang Yilin. Then, they ate rice dumplings, braised pork, soy milk, and fried liver. Zhang Yilin was very happy after eating and drinking. She even drove to the city's highway. When she got down, it was already dusk. Brother, why is Chen Zifan so afraid of you? She only remembered to ask this important question after she was done being happy. Oh, I was at Xianglu Peak a while ago and I destroyed the Bai family of Yanjin. Jiang Tian said lightly. What? Zhang Yilin's body trembled. Luckily, the car didn't crash into the fence. She was very shocked. Brother, you are so awesome. I heard about it. No wonder they call you the Arbiter. Zhang Yilin looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. She even felt that Jiang Tian was a bit unfamiliar, as if she had never met Jiang Tian before. It could be said that Chen Zifan was a high and mighty figure in her heart. Zhang Danfeng, the most outstanding person in their generation, was not even qualified to be Chen Zifan's follower. Every time Zhang Danfeng attended a party held by Chen Zifan, or helped Chen Zifan with something, it was like winning a prize. He would go to Zhang Jinghua to report the matter seriously and show off his merit. She found it hard to believe that Jiang Tian could control Chen Zifan. What about the Bai family of Yanjin? Not only were they 10 times more powerful than Chen Zifan, but they also exuded a mysterious energy, as if they were gods from heaven. Secular clans like the Zhang clan didn't even have the qualifications to make friends with them. As for clans like the Song clan and the Lu clan, they might be able to. He often saw Zhang Danfeng trembling with fear when he mentioned the Bai clan, even if the members of the Bai clan weren't present. If Zhang Danfeng could find out some information about the Bai family, he would be immensely pleased with himself and be immensely pleased with himself. But now, Jiang Tian had defeated the Bai family. This sounded like an ant overturning an elephant to Zhang Yilin. It was unbelievable. What's so great about that? They're just a bunch of ants. Jiang Tian cracked a smile and didn't take it to heart. The Bai family of Yanjin had a high status in Huaxia, so the battle at Xianglu Peak had a great impact. However, the battle wasn't as dangerous as defeating the 28th Japanese Mixed Regiment. In short, the 2 ancestral patriarchs and 9 overlords of the Bai family weren't as powerful as an army. During the battle, Jiang Tian had already reached the 6th level of qi refinement, so it was easy for him to suppress them. Damn, you're still panting when I compliment you. My brother is too domineering. Zhang Yilin rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian and then cracked a smirk. With my brother's protection, I can do whatever I want in Yanjin. We won't bully anyone, but if anyone dares to bully you, just tell me and I'll teach them a lesson. I'll make sure they're even more miserable than the Zhang family today. Jiang Tian laughed heartily as he took charge of everything. Only in front of a close relative like Zhang Yilin could he take off Grandmaster Zhang's hard and cold armor and smile comfortably. Great. If anyone dares to step on me again, I'll step on them 100 times more. Zhang Yilin felt that she had never been so proud and elated in all her years of being sensible. She waved her fists and shouted. Jiang Tian suddenly asked, "By the way, you were arrested by the Zhang family today. Didn't fourth uncle care about you? I remember that he dotes on you a lot." Sigh, ever since your fourth uncle was stripped of his position, he has been drowning his sorrows in alcohol all day. How can he have time to care about me? Zhang Yilin's smile gradually disappeared and a trace of sadness flashed in her eyes. She sighed. When I was taken away by Zhang Huchen today, he was still sleeping. Take me to see fourth uncle. Jiang Tian sighed in his heart. Fourth uncle had been reduced to this state because of the Jiang family. Half an hour later, the Bugatti Veyron stopped at the entrance of an alley called Sheeptail in the southern city district outside the 5th Ring Road. It was a very narrow, dark, and dilapidated alley. Cars couldn't even drive in. The air was filled with the smell of rotting vegetables. Garbage was everywhere and dirty water flowed. On both sides of the road, there were honeycomb coal electric cars and so on. The melted snow and dust formed a mud that could cover one's feet. The lead gray sky was cut into pieces by the disorderly electrical wires. Beside the trash can, a few stray dogs and cats were eating the leftovers. The two finally came to a dilapidated courtyard. Chapter 5:16. Jiang Tian smiled and said, Yilin, you have a good eye for investment. Once this courtyard house is demolished, you will be rich. Zhang Yilin took out the key and was about to open the door. She smiled stiffly and said, No. We rented this small courtyard. We don't have a house. Seeing that Jiang Tian was a little confused, Zhang Yilin opened the door and said with a smile, I did give the 50 million to my father, but he didn't use it to buy a house or set up a weapons research institute. As for where the money is, I don't know. Fourth uncle is not a person who spends money recklessly. He must have his considerations. Jiang Tian smiled, but suddenly pulled Zhang Yilin's hand and said, They are quarreling inside. Don't rush in. It's always like this. A small quarrel every day, a big quarrel every 3 days, and a world war every week. It's going to break the dog's brain. Zhang Yilin shrugged indifferently. It seemed that she was used to these things. Don't worry, let me see the situation first. Jiang Tian scanned the courtyard with his divine sense. Everything in the courtyard could be seen at a glance. There was nowhere to hide. Brother, you are a voyeur. This is not good. Zhang Yilin said with a teasing face. What are you thinking? I am concerned about fourth uncle. Jiang Tian scanned the courtyard with his divine sense. The first thing he saw was fourth uncle Zhang Chenjian drinking on a shabby sofa in the living room. There was a sketch on the coffee table in front of him. And the way he drank was too exaggerated. He was drinking a 5-pound plastic jug. Gulp. He drank a mouthful of white wine without any side dishes. Zhang Chenjian was wearing a pair of high myopia glasses. One of the glasses had fallen off and was tied to his head with a rubber band. He was wearing a shabby blue work shirt. The collar and cuffs were worn out, and the front of his shirt was full of stains. It was unknown how long it had been since he washed it. Zhang Chenjian was 10 years younger than Zhang Wanqing. He was only in his early 30s. But he looked very old. His hair was white, and there were even deep wrinkles. His waist was bent, and he looked like a little old man. Seeing this, Jiang Tian could not help but sigh. In his memory, his fourth uncle in his previous life was either in a suit or a military uniform. He was always full of energy and had a dignified appearance. Who would have thought that he would be reduced to such a state? Ha! You only know how to drink every day and don't go out to work. You're just sitting around and eating. Why don't you drink yourself to death? The person who scolded them was fourth aunt. She was angry and sad. I must have been blind to have married a good-for-nothing like you. Are you not a member of the Zhang clan? Could it be that they were not born from the same mother? Look at my sister-in-law, the wife of the secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Committee. She travels abroad every day. A few days ago, she went to the Champs-Élysées in France and bought 3 Louis Vuitton bags in one go. He even sent a message to show off and at me on purpose. I'm so angry. Let's not compare you to your 3 brothers. Let's compare you to the juniors, Zhang Danfeng and Zhang Yue. What are you? Feces machine. Other than making shit, you can't make anything else. Yen, stop arguing. I have an idea. It's a flash of inspiration. You have to capture it. What made Jiang Tian nervous was that his fourth uncle suddenly smacked his head with joy. He picked up a pen and started to draw on the sketch. You're nothing. Fourth aunt grabbed the sketch on the table and waved her hands as she said, You're just daydreaming. Super energy stones, super energy cannons. They're the same as the perpetual motion machine. They're all pseudoscience. You don't want to listen to me, do you? If you don't listen to me, I'll tear it apart. Are you crazy? Yen, don't tear it apart, don't tear it apart. Fourth uncle flopped. He knelt on the ground with tears streaming down his face. He looked like a madman as he begged bitterly. This is my 10 years of hard work. Once I figure it out, I'm telling you, the Nobel Prize in Physics will be mine. Hawking and Einstein will have to kneel down and call me daddy. Jiang Tian could not help but laugh. Fourth uncle is too cute. You can just say that Hawking and Einstein are not as good as you, but you still have to kneel down and call me daddy. Shen Yen probably knew that her husband valued this sketch very much, so she threw it on the ground. Fourth uncle immediately laid down on the table and flattened the sketch. He even blew away the non-existent dust on it. He treasured it very much. Fourth uncle picked up the wine bottle and took a sip before he continued to write and calculate on it. Fourth aunt, Shen Yen, continued to reprimand him. On the whole, it was peaceful. Perhaps they had already formed this pattern of getting along with each other. Look at you. You're a top student in the University of Science and Technology. You're an assistant professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. You're a genius mathematician and physicist with an IQ value of more than 200. If you ask me, your brain must have been flooded with water. You must have been kicked by a donkey, squeezed by a door, or eaten by a dog. Shen Yen continued to reprimand him. The old master has already said that you're not allowed to help the Jiang family. You're not allowed to help the Jiang family. Everyone else ran away, but you insisted on helping them. Now, you've been stripped of your position in the family. You can't even be a guard. This is all within my expectations. To be honest, I've wanted to quit my position in the family for a long time. It's boring to fight and scheme all day long. I'm happy to be free and unfettered. Fourth uncle took a sip of wine and was immersed in his calculations. He was enjoying himself and did not even raise his head as he spoke. Yes, fourth uncle is a sensible person. Jiang Tian nodded in agreement. It's very soft. How did you hear it? It's so cold. Let's go in. Zhang Yilin, who was wrapped in a newly bought red down jacket, kept stomping her feet as if it could warm her up. I can still see it. Jiang Tian was too lazy to pay attention to him. He frowned and said, What's the hurry? We're having an interesting argument. But the military corporation's investment in the future weapons laboratory was stopped because of you. Why are you crying? Fourth aunt was also very good at quarreling. Her words hit the nail on the head. Those who could hurt you were usually the people closest to you. Fourth uncle's face changed immediately. He slammed the table and scolded anxiously. That's because they don't have foresight. My mathematical theory of microconnections can change history and rewrite the era. Let me tell you, if my theory can be applied to the fields of physics, aerospace, and weapons, then nuclear weapons will be useless. An aircraft carrier will be nothing more than a broken wooden ship. On a microscopic level, this theory can even change the order of atoms and create the densest metals. On a larger scale, it can even achieve space warp propulsion and achieve superluminal space travel. The thrusters created on the Earth's surface can even push the Earth out of the solar system. They don't know shit. Hey. The intellectuals are getting impatient. Even the professors know how to swear. If you're as good as you say, a perpetual motion machine would have been invented long ago. Shen Yan's face was full of ridicule. After following Zhang Qinzhen for so many years, she actually knew a little about physics. She had a theory to support her arguments. Yes, a perpetual motion machine. Zhang Qinzhen's face was solemn. He sighed with emotion. For centuries, many people have spent their lives on it. We can say that they were stupid, but it was their exploration that allowed us to understand the laws of thermodynamics. Although they did not tell the future generations which path to take, they pointed out that some of the paths were dead ends. Shin Si-yen snorted and said disdainfully, "The path you're taking is also a dead end. Your future generations will remember and respect you in the same way." "Whatever." Zhang Chenzhen smiled faintly and said, "The ancient Greek geometer Apollonius summarized the theory of conic curves. 1,800 years later, the German astronomer Kepler applied it to the theory of planetary orbits." He stood up and waved his hands passionately. It was as if he was arguing, but it was more like he was giving a speech in front of tens of thousands of people. The mathematician Galois created group theory in 1831 AD. It was applied to physics more than 100 years later. The matrix theory was created in 1860 AD. It was applied to quantum mechanics 60 years later. The mathematician J. H. Lembert, Gauss, Riemann, Romanowski, and others proposed and developed non-Euclidean geometry. Gauss spent his life exploring the practical application of non-Euclidean geometry, but he died with regrets. 170 years after the invention of non-Euclidean geometry, the theory of tensor analysis, which was useless at the time, became the core foundation of Einstein's general theory of relativity. My microcontinuum mathematics may only be applied a few hundred years later, but I'm willing to do it. I'm proud. I'm willing to endure 100 years of loneliness and loneliness for the sake of human civilization. As he finished speaking, a faintly discernible pride crept up the corners of his eyes and brows. The landlord called 3 times today to collect this month's rent. Also, Ellen's living expenses are gone. It's a total of $5,000. But reality proved that Zhang Qingyan's fourth aunt was the best at arguing. With a simple sentence, she broke Zhang Qingyan's resolve in a second. "I'll think of something." Or, "I'll go carry some bricks tomorrow." Zhang Qingyan lowered his head in shame and said pitifully, "A renowned mathematician and physicist working as a laborer? What a joke." Shin Si-yen mocked. "Sai, in Hua Xia, the gravity of reality is too heavy. Any dream will fall to the ground and shatter into pieces." Zhang Chenzhen said philosophically. To a certain extent, he had defended the dignity of intellectuals. He added, "Don't underestimate science. Do you know why I support the Jiang Family Medicine King Group? Isn't that simple? Zhang Wanqing is your sister." Fourth aunt teased, "Didn't you say that she dotes on you a lot? Back then, when you wanted to study the useless mathematics department, the whole family was against it. They wanted you to study finance or administration, but she was the only one who supported you. Oh no, it should be said that she was the only one who pushed you into the fire pit." Zhang Chenzhen did not take Shin Si-yan's mockery to heart. He had long known his wife's tricks. He sneered and said solemnly with sparkling eyes, "No. This reason is almost negligible. I saw Huang Zhihui's paper in Nature 2 months ago. His paper was ahead of its time, and I believed that they would be able to realize the ultramicromolecular extraction technology. That's why I secretly used the family fund to buy the Jiang family's shares. Facts have proven that I was right. The Medicine King Group's new products are selling well all over the country and the world. Their share prices are rising steadily. Furthermore, I dare to guarantee that the Medicine King Group will be the world's #1 pharmaceutical company in the future, or even a high-tech company." Chapter 517. Zhang Chenzhen let out a sigh and shook his head. "It's a pity that the old master has no foresight. He would never trust my judgment. That's why we missed that opportunity. If we could have held on for half a month, no, just a week, we would have made 10 times the profit. What's the point of doing so much for the Jiang family and the Zhang family? Who would care about that? Who knows?" Shin Si-yen stopped arguing. Instead, she caressed Zhang Qingyan's cheeks tenderly and said, "Look at what you've done now. You're neither human nor ghost." "Actually, I know what I've done for the Jiang family. Do you remember Jiang Tian? He's the guy who always peeps at people bathing. He asked Yilin to give me 50 million. Jiang Tian was speechless. You remember this matter quite clearly. Really? This Jiang Tian has a conscience. Where's the money? Shen Xiaoyan was pleasantly surprised. She tugged at Zhang Qingyan's arm and said tenderly, "Hubby, you're amazing. You have a good eye. I bought some experimental equipment and a few energy ores. I've already spent them all. I still owe you 2 million. Zhang Qingyan's words caused Chen Xiaoyan's tenderness to vanish in an instant. She jumped up and grabbed the frying pan. Clang, clang, clang. She slapped Zhang Qingyan's head a few times. Zhang Qingyan, you wastrel. I'm going to kill you. Zhang Qingyan ran around the house and the yard. He laughed as he ran. Honey, don't hit me. I'll catch a goat. Damn, he even learned Red Wolf's lines. The tenants in the courtyard came out to watch the show. One said, Hey, Sister Yan Er, your frying pan is too short. Can't you use the drying pole? Another said, Old Zhang, your positioning is not good. Can't you use the irregular snake maneuver? Another said, Old Zhang still uses the irregular snake maneuver? He still hasn't let himself go. Last time when he was drunk he swayed 3 times. Even a machine gun couldn't hit him. Dad, Mom, are you done? You're making a fool of yourself. Suddenly, Zhang Yilin's voice rang out from the door. What are you laughing at? We're not outsiders, and it's not like we haven't seen it before. Shen Xiaoyan yelled nonchalantly. Then, she suddenly noticed that there was a handsome young man beside Zhang Yilin who was looking at her with a smile. Who's this? Is he your classmate or boyfriend? Shen Xiaoyan whispered to Zhang Yilin. Jiang Tian had changed too much. He looked mature and handsome. His temperament was especially refined. He then explained to Jiang Tian with an embarrassed smile, Hee, we were just fooling around. It's too stuffy at home on such a cold day, so we went for a jog to exercise our bodies. Mom, this is my cousin Jiang Tian. Zhang Yilin was speechless. It was one thing for her mother to not recognize her cousin, but she even said that he was her boyfriend. Jiang Tian? It's really Jiang Tian. Zhang Qingyan was stunned for a long time before he finally recognized him. He hugged Jiang Tian and said, Ayo, Jiang Tian, you're really good. He even became so handsome. That's great. That's great. He even kissed Jiang Tian. Fourth uncle, you've suffered. Although his fourth uncle's behavior was a little inappropriate, Jiang Tian still felt warm inside. When he was young, his fourth uncle always liked to let him ride a horse, pinch his cheeks, and kiss him crazily. After so many years, he still did not change. What's there to suffer? To me, there's no difference between living in a villa and a courtyard. It's just a bed. Zhang Qingyan pulled Jiang Tian into the living room and sat down. The Zhang family actually only rented 2 houses. One of them was small, and it was for Zhang Yilin. There was no door, and only a curtain was hung. The other house was the kitchen, living room, and living room for the couple. It was filled with all kinds of broken furniture, and there was no place to put one's feet. But if one looked closely, one would find that none of the furniture could be thrown away. Tea. Shen Xiaoyan hurriedly opened the honeycomb coal stove and boiled water to make tea. The tea was extremely cheap jasmine tea, and it cost more than 10 yuan per pack. It's almost 2010, and it's the capital of Beijing. There aren't many places that don't have natural gas. Jiang Tian sighed in his heart. In fact, Jiang Tian did not need to ask. He already knew about his fourth uncle's situation. Zhang Qingyan, on the other hand, kept asking questions, and it was obvious that he was very concerned about the Jiang family. And most of his questions were about the situation at the Sunny Day laboratory. Suddenly, Jiang Tian's gaze fell on the sketch on the table. He was shocked. Fourth uncle, can I take a look at this sketch? Look, it's not something precious. Your fourth uncle is just messing around. Fourth aunt laughed. Zhang Qingyan was dissatisfied. What do you mean by messing around? This is a super crystal cannon. Once it's mass-produced, it'll be useless against missiles. Let's put it this way. It's a single combat weapon, but its lethality is definitely higher than missiles. The more Jiang Tian looked at it, the more shocked he became. His expression became more and more solemn. This was clearly the structure of the Tai second-generation supercrystal railgun that Jiang Tian had seen in the extraterritorial space. How did his fourth uncle come up with something like this? Was he a genius? Or a cultivator who had transmigrated and reincarnated with him? Jiang Tian did not dare to be sure. He asked, "Fourth uncle, do you have any other similar drawings?" "There are many. They're all trash. It's too hard to wipe your butt, and it's not good to start a fire." Fourth aunt opened the drawer and pulled out a stack of drawings, which she passed to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian flipped through the pages one by one, and he was shocked to the extreme. Mustard Seed Bomb, Fly of Fury, 100 Transformations Crystal Armor, Puppet Beast, Crystal Processor, Crystal Battleship, Coelian Anti-Demon Beast Defense System, and so on. Of course, these drawings were not labeled with these names. However, Jiang Tian could tell that they were magical weapons from the cultivation world. And there were all kinds of them, from mustard seed, super small, small, medium, large, giant, to planetary and star states. Seeing this, Jiang Tian felt that it was inconceivable, but he could basically confirm that his fourth uncle was the same as him. He was definitely someone from the cultivation world. It was also possible that he had been possessed. When Jiang Tian thought of this, he immediately scanned fourth uncle's mind with his consciousness. As expected, he saw a lot of information and mental fragments floating in the depths of his mind. At this point, Jiang Tian could already confirm that fourth uncle had indeed been possessed. However, the possession of this soul was not very successful. Therefore, fourth uncle's soul was a combination of the soul of a scientist and a grandmaster refiner. Sometimes he would be deranged. Only when he was drunk would the hidden remnant soul emerge. However, this divine soul had already been shattered, and it would never be able to completely take over fourth uncle's physical body. Jiang Tian knew that in the cultivation world, there were some refiners who turned refining into a science. The level of their development was far beyond human technology. Take this Coelian system for example. If it was manufactured, it would be 10 times more powerful than an anti-missile system. For a moment, Jiang Tian's heart was greatly moved. He had been killing in the cultivation world for 10,000 years and deeply understood a principle. No government or ruler would allow two super forces to coexist because it would seriously shake the foundation of society. A government was essentially a violent institution where one class ruled over the other classes. Once a more powerful force appeared, the country would no longer be a country. At present, whether it was Huaxia, the United States, Japan, the European Union, or other superpowers, all of them attached great importance to martial artists, ability users, spellcasters, and other kinds of cultivators. However, there was a prerequisite for all of this, and that was that these forces were suppressed by nuclear weapons and were under the control of the government. Nuclear weapons. Just like the sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of all kinds of cultivators, they could only parasitize and submit to the governments of various countries. Whether it was Yi Tianren, Zeus, the Wolf King, the Blood Ancestor, the Professor, many experts were no exception. And once Jiang Tian broke through to the foundation establishment level or even higher, he would be able to display violent power comparable to or even surpassing nuclear weapons. At this time, no country would allow him to survive. Even the superpowers of the world would band together to attack him. Of course, if Jiang Tian could cultivate peacefully without having to display this kind of power, it would be good. It would also be good if he could find the ruins of immortality as soon as possible, enter it, and use it as a springboard to step onto the Stargate and cross the void. But everything had a what if. Once Jiang Tian had to display this kind of power on Earth, he would definitely be suppressed by the superpowers. Then, there was only one way left for Jiang Tian: establishing a country. And establishing a country couldn't be done without weapons, otherwise it would be courting death. So, Jiang Tian had to prepare the relevant weapons before announcing the establishment of a country to the world. But if Jiang Tian wanted to purchase modern weapons, he would probably be blocked by the superpowers, and they would not give him the time to do so. And fourth uncle's talent in this area gave him hope. Take the Coelian system for example. Its defensive power was far superior to any existing anti-missile system, and its offensive power was comparable to nuclear weapons. But it did not meet the definition of a modern weapon at all. It was more like a magical weapon. The materials he needed were not uranium or explosives or special fuels, but various ores and crystals with energy that had never been recognized. Jiang Tian, you don't know, but your fourth uncle has made us suffer in order to help the Jiang family. Look, we don't even have a house to live in. We're just sitting there and eating. All the money you gave us before. Shin Xian looked at Jiang Tian stammeringly and rambled on, but she was abruptly interrupted by Jiang Tian's words. Fourth uncle, I'll give you another billion. As soon as these words came out. 10 billion? Shin Xian was dumbfounded. She gulped, her voice trembling, and her face was filled with disbelief. 1 billion. I'm rich. I've reached the heavens in a single bound. Zhang Danfeng had the full support of the Zhang family to set up the Software Pioneer Park, but his personal wealth was not even 1 billion. Zhang Chenzhen was very calm. He waved his hand and smiled. Jiang Tian, I know you mean well, but you don't have to pity me. Besides, Medicine King Group is expanding rapidly, and it's time for us to use money. Ouch. He screamed in pain and turned to Shin Xian. Why did you pinch me? It hurts. He said angrily. Jiang Tian smiled and said, Fourth uncle, I'm not pitying you. I'm not helping you. I'm investing in you. Chapter 5:18. Investment. Shin Xian was puzzled. Jiang Tian smiled and said, That's right. The weapons that fourth uncle has researched are very valuable. I'll support you if you continue with your research. On the sketches of his fourth uncle, there were many data indicators and calculations of the ores needed. Most of these ores were found on Earth. They should be substitutes for the energy crystals that were commonly found in the cultivation world. The calculations showed that Zhang Chenzhen had also done a lot of basic research on refining equipment. At least his general direction was correct. In terms of refining, it could be said that Jiang Tian's practical experience and theoretical level were both at the peak of perfection. When he was still a gold core cultivator, he had once presided over the construction of a celestial ring crystal battleship called Devourer. It only took a day for it to absorb all the energy on a planet and annihilate it. However, Jiang Tian had a huge shortcoming, and that was his lack of understanding of the ores and materials on Earth. In fact, his lack of understanding of the resources on Earth had already been revealed during the construction of the Fersky Laboratory and the revival of the Medicine King Group. After all, he had never cultivated on Earth in his previous life. When he committed suicide by jumping off a cliff, he was taken away by his master. Fortunately, Jiang Tian's luck was not bad. He had discovered a lot of spirit herbs and great herbs for refining pills on Earth. He had found some at the Shinnong School, the Chinese Society of Singapore, and the Cherry Blossom Society. Therefore, his ability to refine pills and make medicine was not greatly affected. However, Jiang Tian discovered that the ores and energy stones used for refining equipment on Earth were even rarer than the spirit herbs and great herbs. So far, he had only discovered a few ores for refining equipment, such as chalcedony, Gingjin iron essence, immortal tear black gold, and dark space stone for refining storage rings. The ores and metals needed for refining equipment were too few. It was difficult to refine large magical equipment or magical equipment, let alone super large magical equipment of the planet level. Under such circumstances, Jiang Tian needed the help of Zhang Chenzhen, who had a deep understanding of Earth's materials and resources as well as physics. Jiang Tian, is the research I've done really that valuable? You have to see it clearly. Don't be harmed by me, hiss. Zhang Chenzhen seemed a little unconfident and wanted to refuse. Needless to say, he was pinched by his aunt again. Your research is really valuable. It can even be said to be epic-making. Also, stop drinking. What kind of research can you come up with when you're in a daze from drinking? I'll give you some pills, they're good for your brain. Jiang Tian stuck his hand into his pocket and pretended to rummage for a while before taking out a bottle of medicinal pills. Spirit nourishing and mind-clearing pill. This pill could strengthen the brain, nourish and strengthen the mind, including the fragmented memories in Zhang Qing'an's mind. It could even allow a person to enter into a super lucid state, giving them an astonishing ability to calculate and think. Jiang Tian believed that within 3 years, or even just 1 year, Fourth Uncle would be able to make a major breakthrough and create a super magical weapon that could rival the modern armies of the great powers of the world. I definitely won't drink it. The medicine given by Jiang Tian had to be of good quality. Zhang Qingzhen hurriedly received it happily. Just take 1 pill a month. Don't take more than that. One more thing, your research must be highly confidential. Don't let anyone see it. This belongs to a completely different scientific system. No existing scientists can give valuable suggestions. Instead, it may cause some trouble. Jiang Tian said as he picked up a pen from the table and made a few changes to the calculations. We'll listen to you. Zhang Qingzhen and his wife nodded like chickens pecking at rice. Jiang Tian asked for Zhang Qing'an's bank account number and got up to leave. Jiang Tian, we haven't seen each other for so long. Let's have dinner together. Shen Xiaoyan beamed and warmly urged him to stay. No need. Jiang Tian said with a smile as he walked out, I still have things to do. You don't have to get too close to the Zhang family. Why tie up a ship that is about to sink so tightly? Sigh, the Zhang family's actions are really disappointing. Zhang Qingzhen nodded in agreement. Don't worry, we'll remember. Let's just live our lives and ignore them. Shen Xiaoyan nodded. Brother, I'll drive you. Zhang Yilin knew that Jiang Tian did not drive, so she hurriedly got up to send him off. On the way, Jiang Tian called Yi Ziwei and asked her to transfer the money to Zhang Qingzhen. These funds were all personal assets that Jiang Tian had deposited in a Swiss bank account. It had nothing to do with the Medicine King Group, so the transfer was convenient and fast. Zhang Yilin and Jiang Tian found a restaurant outside to grab a bite before driving to Fragrant Hill. When they arrived at the foot of Fragrant Hill, Jiang Tian said faintly, Yilin, you should go home. The mountain roads are not easy to drive on, and the roads are slippery and icy. It's not safe to drive. Brother, you live here now? Zhang Yilin stopped the car and looked at the magnificent and luxurious villa at the foot of the mountain. Her face was full of admiration. This is a famous area for the rich. I heard that only the rich can afford to live here. Fragrant Hill in winter was very beautiful. It was covered in white snow, and everything was covered in frost. The lofty mountains and precipitous ridges were like hibernating jade elephants and white dragons. There was a kind of desolate beauty. Red maple leaves that looked like they were on fire were exposed in the white snow, adding a touch of warmth and vitality. This was originally a scenic spot, and Yanjing City had always restricted commercial and residential development in this area. This made these villas even more rare and precious. Those who lived here were basically the richest people in Huaxia. No, I live in Yuhua Villa. Jiang Tian got out of the car and stood by the window. He smiled and said, It's at the back of Fragrant Hill. Yuhua Villa. Zhang Yilin stuck out her tongue in amazement and said with a smile, Then I'll accompany you to take a look. Sure. You can stay here tonight. It just so happens that your sister Qing'e also misses you. Jiang Tian slightly nodded. Zhang Yilin suddenly cheered and jumped out of the car. She held Jiang Tian's arm and walked up the mountain along the winding road. After just a few steps, Jiang Tian saw a beautiful figure standing quietly under the dim street lights, looking down the mountain. Ling, why are you here? I'm waiting for you to come back. Seeing Jiang Tian appear, Huang Linger's beautiful eyes lit up. She turned into a beautiful crescent shape and greeted Jiang Tian. When she arrived in front of Jiang Tian, she lowered her head and stammered with a blushing face. It's Sister Qing'e who asked me to wait for you. She was afraid that something would happen to you when you went to the Zhang family. She was wearing a beige woolen windbreaker, aqua blue jeans, brown leather boots, and a red woolen hat with 2 pom-poms. Her long black hair flowed down from the brim of the hat like a waterfall. Her small face seemed to be whiter than the snow on the tree, but it was a little red from the cold wind. Maybe she was shy. How could Jiang Tian not know that she must have made the decision to wait for him? Qing'e cared about him, but she knew that he could deal with the Zhang family, so she was not worried at all. On the other hand, Huang Linger had too little experience, so it was inevitable that she would be anxious. My cousin, Zhang Yilin. Huang Linger. Jiang Tian gave a simple introduction and casually squeezed her small hand. Are you cold? Oh, it's quite cold. Zhang Yilin rolled her eyes, coughed, and joked, taking advantage of a girl. I'll tell on you. Huang Linger's small hand that was being held by Jiang Tian seemed to have been stung by a scorpion, and she retracted her hand. Her expression was a little unnatural. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, Go ahead and tell on me. Your sister-in-law knows that she's also my woman. Brother, you've learned bad things. Zhang Yilin was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. But thinking about it, her brother was so capable, so it was normal for him to have more women. Not to mention those top families, even the uncles of the Zhang family looked serious, but in fact, which one of them didn't have multiple wives and concubines? They either openly ate with their wives or secretly kept a few college students as their mistresses. Huang Linger suddenly felt warmth in her heart, but her nose was also sour. Sparkling and translucent tears immediately filled her eyes and were about to burst out of her eyes. She suddenly quickened her steps and walked to the front. Her shoulders were slightly shaking, and her face was already covered in tears. She's crying? Did I say something wrong and offend sister-in-law? Zhang Yilin held Jiang Tian's hand and asked in a low voice with a face full of worry. It's okay. Let her calm down. Jiang Tian smiled. In Huang Linger's view, this should be the first time that Jiang Tian acknowledged her relationship with him. In fact, with Jiang Tian's 10,000 years of cultivation, he had long been indifferent to the relationship between men and women. But for her, this was undoubtedly a rare recognition. Bush, bush, boom. On the mountain road in front, fireworks suddenly jumped up and bloomed in the air, like 1,000 trees blooming in the east on a windy night. It's beautiful. I love fireworks the most. Seeing this, Zhang Yilin clapped her hands and cheered, showing a bit of childishness. At the end of the year, the atmosphere of the new year was getting more and more obvious. It was probably the children in the nearby villa area who were setting off fireworks. Jiang Tian saw that Huang Linger, who had disappeared at the corner of the mountain road, actually turned around and ran back in a panic. What's the matter? Jiang Tian asked. Nothing. Let's go. Huang Linger's tears had dried. She shook her head with a slightly red face and followed behind Jiang Tian. Under the bright yellow light of the street lamps, there was no one on the long mountain road covered with snow. There was a bit of fragrance of grass and trees in the cool air. The mountain wind blew, and the snow on the trees fluttered down, giving people a sense of tranquility and beauty. After passing the corner of the mountain road, Jiang Tian found a few young men and women in their early 20s setting off fireworks, smoking, and playing by the roadside. Behind them was the fragrant hill villa that Jiang Tian and the others could see from the foot of the mountain. Shoo! Among the crowd, there was a tall, handsome boy with an overbearing and unruly aura. He put his finger in his mouth and whistled sharply. He shouted at Huang Linger, Beauty, why are you back again? Do you miss your brother? Come on, what are you afraid of? Beauty, let's set off fireworks together. Let's play together. We're not bad guys. The other boys also cheered, and their eyes with bad intentions caressed Huang Linger's curvy body. Chapter 5:19. The girls who were with them were all smiling without saying a word. Their eyes were full of ridicule, as if they were used to the behavior of these boys. Huang Linger was shocked. She lowered her head and ignored them. She only gently grabbed the corner of Jiang Tian's windbreaker. Jiang Tian looked at this scene and thought of her panicked look. He knew that someone must have hit on or harassed Huang Linger and scared her. Although she was now a cultivator, it was hard for her to change her state of mind. She still had the mentality of an ordinary person. Her experience and heart were even purer than Qing'er's. It was not an exaggeration to say that she was timid. Pan Jiajun, what are you doing? This is my cousin and cousin-in-law. Stop it. Zhang Yilin stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at the youth who was whistling with a displeased expression. She frowned. Yilin, you have a cousin? Why haven't I heard of him? A girl sitting on the hood of a Lamborghini said with a cigarette in her hand. The girl was wearing a leather jacket and studded high heels. She was wearing smoky makeup and looked like a punk. My cousin just came to Yanjin. He's the crown prince of the Medicine King group from Jinling. Zhang Yilin introduced him proudly. Never heard of him. The punk girl and a few young masters shook their heads and smiled disdainfully. Yanjin was the capital with 3,000 years of history and 800 years of history. It was the political, cultural, educational, and economic center of Huaxia. It occupied a lot of resources, and residents of Yanjin enjoyed benefits that other provincial cities couldn't compare with. Even the old hooligans in the alley looked down on foreigners. They thought that they were better than others, and their sense of superiority was overflowing. Not to mention these rich people who enjoyed all kinds of privileges. The residents of Yanjin were all untouchables in the eyes of the crown prince. Got it. He should be the cousin of the Jiang family of the Medicine King group. He cut ties with the Zhang family. I don't know what happened, but Zhang Danfeng came to my dad again today and said that he wanted to introduce the Jiang family to my dad. The arrogant Pan Jiajun smiled proudly and looked at Jiang Tian with even more disdain. The Pan family was considered a first-tier family in Yanjin. Pan Jiajun's father was the deputy director of the General Drug Administration. His family also secretly held shares in several vaccine companies. Their strength was similar to that of the Zhang family. Young people like Pan Jiajun were only in their 20s and were still in college. However, they were influenced by their families and had a clear understanding of social status. If he had encountered elites like Zhang Danfeng and Zhang Yue, or elders like Zhang Zhongguo's uncle, Pan Jiajun would definitely not dare to offend them. However, when he met a disciple like Zhang Yilin who wasn't valued, or even a disciple of the Jiang family who needed help from the Pan family, he didn't take her seriously at all. Oh, they've both severed ties before. The other young men came to a sudden understanding and nodded successively, and they laughed with disdain as if Jiang Tian was just an ant. To be able to live in the fragrant hill villas, they were all descendants of famous and promising families in Beijing. Almost every family had a leader at the level of a minister or a senior executive of a central enterprise. They didn't care about the Zhang family's distant relatives and the country bumpkins from Jinling. Jiang Tian didn't bother to argue with these kids. He held Huang Linger's hand and walked up the mountain. Don't blame me for not reminding you. The back mountain is where the top families live. The mountain has been sealed off and there are security guards. You can't go up. Everyone in that place has a powerful background. If you offend those big shots, you will be beaten to death. Idiot. Pan Jiajun saw this and scolded him with disdain. You came from a small place. You don't even know what the Xianglu Peak and Yuhua mountain villas of Fragrant Hill mean. Pan Jiajun was only in his 20s, but he was bossing Jiang Tian around as if he was scolding an ignorant child. However, the young men and women around them thought it was reasonable. The Pan family was backed by the Fu Hongxue family and controlled the domestic pharmaceutical industry. They also happened to be in charge of the Jiang family's Medicine King group. Wasn't it normal for them to scold a country bumpkin? Jiang Tian frowned slightly and turned his head to look at him. He was the strongest martial artist in Huaxia and the leader of the Heaven Alliance. When had he ever been so disrespected? How dare you stare at me? What are you looking at? Pan Jiajun's eyes widened when he saw Jiang Tian looking at him with an unfriendly expression. He was a little annoyed. This kid is obviously not convinced. Fine, I'll let you know today that you have to lower your head when you're under someone else's roof. Your girlfriend? He raised his chin at Huang Linger and said frivolously, don't you want to suck up to the Pan family? Fine, lend me your girlfriend for a night, okay? I promise I'll give the Jiang family the green light. Jiang Tian walked over slowly and said calmly, Kid, kneel down and apologize and I won't break your legs. Pan Jiajun was stunned and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. He then laughed and slapped his thigh with a cigarette in his mouth. Funny, this is too funny. This is the funniest joke I've heard this year. Are you a clown sent by monkeys? The crowd burst into laughter. Do you know who young Master Jun is? He's the young master of the Pan family, one of the top 30 in Yanjing. Even if Zhang Danfeng was here, he wouldn't dare to be so stubborn. The punk girl in the leather jacket also flicked the ash from her long and thin female cigarette. She didn't even look at Jiang Tian as she sneered, "That's right. And his father is in charge of the Food and Drug Administration. You can't afford to offend him. It's your honor to have young Master Jun flirt with your girlfriend. You're courting death with such an attitude. Country bumpkins, ignorant and ignorant." Those big bosses in Huaxia, including the boss of Yunnan Baiyao, are all scrambling to send women to young Master Jun's bed. The crowd looked at Jiang Tian with ridicule, looking forward to the scene of Jiang Tian kneeling down, admitting defeat, and handing over the woman with both hands. It was not the first time they had seen such a scene. It was not rare at all. "Do you know who I am? Are you scared? It's your honor to play with your woman. What are you so nervous about?" Pan Jiajun curled his lips and held the cigarette in his mouth. He looked up proudly and raised his eyebrows as if he was waiting for Jiang Tian to admit his mistake and beg for mercy. Slap. What he got in response was a crisp slap in the face. In the sudden crisp sound, Pan Jiajun flew out like a rag doll and hit the mountain wall on the side of the road. The snow and gravel rolled down before he slowly slid down. The crowd was shocked when they saw this. The crowd was dead silent. Young Master Jun's cheek cracked and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He immediately fainted. How could you hit someone?" the punk-style girl screamed in panic. "Hit someone? What is this? I said I would break his leg." Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Jiang Tian walked over lazily and kicked Pan Jiajun's calf. Crack! A crisp sound that made people's hearts palpitate. "Ugh, it hurts." Pan Jiajun woke up from the pain. His neck suddenly straightened and he screamed in pain. The veins in his neck were like purple earthworms. "I thought you didn't know pain." Jiang Tian's face didn't change at all. He kicked his other calf again. Blood gushed out and his calf was broken like a stick. It was definitely a comminuted fracture. Under the excruciating pain, Pan Jiajun fainted again. Many socialites in Yanjin turned pale and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They were terrified and couldn't believe what they were seeing. They couldn't believe that Jiang Tian would hit Pan Jiajun. It was like an ant provoking an elephant. Only the punk girl quickly rushed to the front of Jiang Tian, flustered and exasperated. She waved her hands and shouted, "Boy, you dare to hit people. Do you know who he is?" "Who we are?" "Let me tell you." "Shut up. I don't care who you are. Even if you're God, I'll overturn his throne if you bully my woman." Jiang Tian said calmly, "Little brat, you're in trouble. My dad is from Huaxia Oil." The punk girl was so angry that she laughed. Her slightly widened eyes suddenly became cold and ruthless. She pointed at Jiang Tian's nose as if she wanted to threaten him. "It's better for women to be gentle and virtuous." Jiang Tian slapped her to the ground and kicked her soft belly. The kick caused the girl to bend over like a cooked prawn with her mouth wide open. "Wah!" She spat out a mouthful of stinky green juice. It was a half-digested dinner and maybe some red wine. "Are you Mr. Jiang from Jinling? You've gone too far." A girl with long hair draped over her shoulders, gentle features, and a rather scholarly air walked out of the crowd. She raised her small face proudly and looked at Jiang Tian. "You actually hit a weak girl. Don't you think that's too ungentlemanly?" Everyone looked at Wang Xinzhu with reverence. Wang Xinzhu was an anomaly in the circle of disciples of the ministries. Her father was in the Ministry of Education and was in charge of scientific research in universities. Wang Xinzhu, who was born in a scholarly family, had excellent academic results. He was a top student in the business school of Yanjing University. He had excellent eloquence and was once the champion of the International University Debate Competition. If they weren't childhood friends, Wang Xinzhu wouldn't be willing to play with them at all. True respect for your opponent is to leave no room for negotiation. Women can hold up half the sky. Ignoring the angry and fearful gazes of the crowd, Jiang Tian shrugged indifferently and said, "I'm not a person who cares about women. I'll hit women too. Not to mention that this kind of shrew isn't a woman at all. You should shut up too, or I'll hit you too." "You!" Wang Xinju was so scared that she subconsciously took a step back. Jiang Tian said lazily, "If you want revenge, come at me. I live on the mountain, Yuhua Mountain Villa." Then he left with the two girls. Seeing Jiang Tian and the others leave, many of the rich young masters in Yanjing gnashed their teeth in anger. "This bastard is too arrogant. We can't let him go." Some called the ambulance, some called their parents, and some discussed how to deal with Jiang Tian. Chapter 520. To Jiang Tian, Pan Jejun's matter was just a small interlude. He didn't care about it at all. However, he suddenly remembered something. Pan Jejun said that Zhang Danfang wanted to introduce the Jiang family to his father. What is this guy thinking? Has he figured out my background and is trying to get on my good side? This Zhang family is quite well informed. I've really underestimated their intelligence network. Jiang Tian wouldn't be surprised if the Zhang family did this. They were all about profit and didn't care about anything else. Sigh, my mother has always had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. She still has some feelings for the Zhang family. I'm afraid she won't be able to resist their familial attacks. The next few days were peaceful. Jiang Tian took Qing'er and Ling to cultivate in Yuhua Mountain Villa. Yi Ziwei and Jiang Bangxia were in charge of the company registration and the relocation of the property. With the support of Shen Mange, Chen Zifan, and the others, these things were quickly settled. Basically, after the Spring Festival, Yaowang Holdings could start operating and the main staff could move over to work. Huang Linger's comprehension was good. She progressed quickly and quickly mastered shadow forming and entanglement. She was also getting more and more familiar with the divine withered glory technique. Today, Jiang Tian had just finished teaching the two girls. Chen Zifan nodded and bowed as he came in. "Mr. Jiang, the heads of the 6 families have sent a lot of treasures. Would you like to take a look?" "Bring them all here. Let them in," Jiang Tian said indifferently. Qin Zhong, head of the Qin family, and his son, Qin Zongheng, offer 30 pieces of jade marrow and some of the ancestral steel spine rock wolf's fur and blood essence. They are useful. Keep them." Hearing this, Qin Zhong and Qin Zongheng were overjoyed. Lin Fengmian, head of the Qin family, offers a book of the Taihao 9 primordial sword. "Idiot, what do I need this for?" Lin Fengmian was so scared that he knelt on the ground. "Master Kong, please forgive me. In the future, I will find a better." The head of the Luo family, Luo Chenbei, and his beloved son, Luo Yunkai, present a set of golden silk armor. "Oh, so you're the head of the Luo clan. How thoughtful of you." Jiang Tian glanced at him and nodded slightly. Sun family's patriarch, Sun Jiming, offers a section of heaven thunder bamboo. "This is not bad." Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with joy as he nodded his head in praise. Once the treasure presentation was over, Jiang Tian sipped his tea and said indifferently, "Regardless of whether it's good or bad, I appreciate your kind intentions." This represented a form of submission. From then on, Yanjin was Jiang Tian's world. The more lackeys there were, the more options there were. Whether it was searching for cultivation resources or exploring the mysteries of the ruins of immortality, these people could be used. Jiang Tian didn't need to kill them all. "Aya, Master Kong has acknowledged us. His life is saved." The tycoons of Yanjin looked at each other and saw the joy on each other's faces. "By the way, where's the Fu clan?" Jiang Tian put down his teacup and suddenly found that Fu Hongshue's descendants hadn't appeared. "Master Kong, I was just about to report this to you." Chen Zi nodded and smiled obsequiously. After Fu Hongshue's death, his nephew, Fu Jioga, took over the position of the head of the Fu clan. "What do you think? Do you want to meet him?" "Why do you want me to meet him?" Jiang Tian asked with a half-smile. After Fu Hongxue was killed by Master Kong, the Fu clan has been in chaos. The sons are fighting for the position of the head of the Fu clan. Chen Zifan smiled obsequiously. There was a hint of cunning between his eyebrows. He nodded and bowed. "This lowly one can't do that. If old Fu knows about this from the heavens, he won't leave either. Don't worry. So, I helped the Fu clan choose a virtuous and talented disciple to be the head of the Fu clan. The obsequious look on his face deepened. He cupped his hands and smiled. However, you, Grandmaster Jiang, are a martial arts adjudicator. I'll feel uneasy if I decide on my own. I'm not smart enough. You might not be satisfied with the person I choose. Your eyes are like torches and you're the best at judging people. It's better for you to take a look. He kept saying servant and little in a servile manner. Jiang Tian thought that this guy must have been a eunuch in ancient times. Jiang Tian held his forehead helplessly and said, "Oh, stop talking nonsense. Let him in." "Okay." Chen Zifan left happily. Not long after, he brought in a fat man with a big belly and a big belly. He was panting heavily. "Your servant, Fatty Fu, greets Master Kong. I wish Master Kong a long and prosperous life. I wish you to unify the Jianghu and be invincible." The fat man was dressed luxuriously and wore a huge jade ring on his thumb. When he saw Jiang Tian, he kowtowed like a chicken pecking at rice. Jiang Tian scanned him with his divine perception. He found that not only did this guy have no martial arts cultivation, but his body had long been hollowed out by wine, women, wealth, and anger. He was simply a good-for-nothing. "Stand up and talk. What's your name? Who are you to Fu Hongxue?" Jiang Tian crossed his legs and stretched out his hand. Chen Zifan quickly poured a cup of tea for Jiang Tian and handed it to him. "Master Kong, my name is Fu Jioga. I'm the boss of Jioga Entertainment Company and Fu Hongxue's distant nephew." Fatty Fu stood up with reverence. His face was full of flattery, and he was so excited that his body trembled slightly. "Oh, I know you." Jiang Tian nodded. This kid came from a military family and was a big shot in the entertainment industry. He had invested in many film and television productions and signed many A-list artists. His Jioga Entertainment Company was neck and neck with Bai Cho Fei's Entertainment Company. He was also in the top 100 on the Forbes list. I didn't expect that my lowly name would reach Master Kang's ears. I'm really scared. This guy boldly handed over a list of names. Jiang Tian frowned and said, "What's this?" Hee, Fatty Fu doesn't have any other skills. He's just the head of an opera troupe, but there are a few good-looking girls in the company. Fatty Fu's words were humble. He smiled slyly and said, "Like Sister Bing Bing and Fei Fei, they're all gentle and lovely. If Master Kong likes any of them, just say the word, and I'll send them to you tonight. It's a little filial piety from a disciple. I accept your filial piety, but there's no need." Jiang Tian's face turned slightly cold, and he waved his hand. "Are you retarded? Master Kong is a godlike figure. Why would he like these dirty actors?" Seeing this, Chen Zifan was shocked. He lifted his leg and kicked Fatty Fu's butt. He scolded angrily, "Get out of here. Master Kong, please forgive me. Patriarch Chen, please forgive me. I'll take my leave now." Fatty Fu was so shocked that he was sweating profusely. He bowed repeatedly and retreated out of the door. "How dare you pollute Master Kang's eyes with these vulgar women? What a disgrace." Chen Zifan pointed at Fatty Fu's back and cursed. "Good for trash." Jiang Tian smiled and said, "But if you help him, will the other disciples of the Fu family agree?" "Of course they won't." Chen Zifan made a throat-slitting gesture and said with a sinister smile, "However, Qin Zongheng and I have wiped them out. The rest are all trash who are worse than Fatty Fu. If a cripple chooses a general, then it's Fatty Fu's turn, right?" Chen Zifan was indeed despicable and shameless. If such a trash was chosen to be the patriarch of the Fu family, then the Fu family would only exist in name. "That's right," Jiang Tian said with a spurious smile. "Your shameless appearance is quite similar to my brother Bing Hua's style back then." "Hee, Master Kong, I'll be honest with you. In the entire Yanjin, if I say that I'm the second most despicable and ruthless person, no one would dare to say that they are the first." Chen Zifan smiled and said, "However, Master Kong, you are a person of virtue and prestige. There are some things that are inconvenient for you to do. What kind of status do you have? Trampling on these ants, wouldn't that dirty your feet? Wouldn't that be too degrading? Just leave these matters to me." I promise that it will be done properly. Very good. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and nodded. Sometimes he really couldn't leave these vicious dogs. Now that he was called the martial arts adjudicator of Huaxia, he naturally had to pay attention to his image. In the crowd, Qin Zhong glanced at Qin Zongheng and sighed in a low voice. Zongheng, your cultivation is higher than Qin Zifen's, but you are not as smart as him. I understand. From now on, I will do everything from Master Kang's perspective. Qin Zongheng nodded humbly. At this moment, Lin Fengmian let out a hollow laugh and said, Master Kang, you don't seem to be satisfied with the treasures that we have offered. However, this old man once heard a secret. It said that there is a sacred fruit in the African rainforest that can rapidly increase one's cultivation. African rainforest? Jiang Tian frowned. Oh, the Lin family has some influence in the energy and mining industry in Huaxia. This news was also discovered by the mining company. Lin Fengmian took out a photo and handed it to Jiang Tian and said with a smile, Master Kang, please take a look. Seeing this, Jiang Tian was shocked and his eyes widened. This is the Immortal Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid. This was obviously taken in a tropical rainforest. The plants were lush, the trees covered the sky, and poisonous insects and pythons were entrenched. And on a cliff next to a waterfall, there was a huge red flower growing. Master Kang, this strange herb is called the blood orchid by the locals. This place is located in the Longevity tribe of the African island nation of Sidoni. Seeing Jiang Tian's surprised expression, Lin Fengmian knew that he had made the right bet. He said excitedly, according to some scientific teams, this herb contains mysterious ingredients and has the power to rejuvenate people and make them immortal. According to our investigation, the black people in that tribe can indeed live for 200 to 300 years without dying. The power to rejuvenate people and make them immortal. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed and he said with a smile, It's not that exaggerated, but this herb is indeed very useful to me. This kind of herb was usually called the foundation-building herb in the cultivation world. It contained surging spiritual energy that could be transformed into true essence. It was the most effective herb for breaking through from the late-stage qi refinement stage to the foundation-building stage. Of course, the dragon marrow spirit vein and the winchim herb were very good, but in terms of effect, they were far inferior to the immortal ascension blood arrow orchid. It could be said that the dragon marrow spirit vein was more suitable for Ling, and Yi Ziwei, who had ordinary physiques and lower cultivation. And this divine herb was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than the winchim herb. It was exactly what Jiang Tian and Qingya, who had divine and immortal physiques, needed the most at this stage. Chapter 521. But it's said that this kind of divine herb is protected by powerful gods of other races. Other than the natives who worship them, no one else has ever gotten it. Lin Fengmian said with a stern expression. Sidoni is rich in mineral resources. Many warlords have been fighting for many years. These warlords even have the support of the superpowers, but no armed force dares to provoke the gods of the Longevity tribe. It's said that there's a god with a bird's head and a human body. He has black wings and can spit out high-temperature flames. Another god is 10 meters tall. His body is like a rock. When he walks, the earth will shake and the mountains will shake. He can overturn a tank with his bare hands. TSK, are you talking about Kwafu? 10 meters tall. His body is like a rock. What a joke! Seeing that Jiang Tian was very interested, Chen Zifen rolled his eyes at Lin Fengmian in disdain. He was very jealous. I've done so many bad things and I've been at his beck and call. Only then did I get Grandmaster Zhang's approval. You, on the other hand, have made Master Kang look at you in a different light just by hearing some myths and legends of the old tribes. Zifen, don't interrupt. Jiang Tian rolled his eyes at him. Even though he was a cultivator, Chen Zifen's understanding of life forms was still too shallow. Jiang Tian had seen many life forms when he traveled across the universe in a super crystal energy battleship, burning and looting. Among them were silicon-based life forms. They used distortion force fields to bind sand and minerals and had the power of the earth. The larger the force field of these silicon-based life forms, the larger the body they condensed and the more powerful they were. Some mighty figures were hundreds of meters tall or even thousands of meters tall. They even directly evolved into ships and weapons, like super ships with intelligence, souls, and self-consciousness. This race was very terrifying. They could survive without oxygen and had strong adaptability. Their ability to perform tasks in the universe was even more terrifying. They had once occupied several galaxies and kept expanding like cancer cells. Jiang Tian defeated them, but it was also a hard battle that lasted hundreds of years. It was very thrilling. If it was written, it would definitely surpass any science fiction. This might be the ruins of immortality. Those gods of the alien races might also have been left there. After listening to Lin Fengyan's story, Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes slightly. In ancient times, the cultivation civilization on Earth might have been very developed. There were also many races. There were huge spirit beasts running around, spirit birds that covered the sky and covered the sun, and even crystal energy battleships that roamed the periphery of Earth. This planet is getting more and more interesting. Why didn't I notice it in my previous life? In his previous life, Jiang Tian had also crossed the void after reaching the soul formation stage. After going through untold hardships, he returned to Earth and brought Qing'er's body to the extraterritorial space to be buried. At that time, Jiang Tian was full of regret and guilt, so he was not in the mood to cultivate. He just walked around the Earth and left in a hurry without even scanning the place with his spiritual awareness. Therefore, he did not find anything obvious. Of course, it was also possible that hundreds of years later, these gods and their ruins would all disappear. At that time, Earth was flourishing in science and technology, but its spiritual energy had been completely exhausted. It had become a lifeless, dead planet in the eyes of cultivators. However, so what if it's a mutant from the ruins of immortality? I've killed countless cultivators in my previous life. Jiang Tian sneered, and a hint of arrogance appeared in his heart. After understanding the relevant information in detail, Jiang Tian ordered Lin Fengyan to continue to search for relevant information. He planned to wait for Huanglinger to completely master the divine art of withering glory, which was after the Chinese New Year, before leaving for Africa. After all, it was already the end of the year. He spent the second half of the year in South Korea and Japan, and did not spend much time with his family. Jiang Tian had to take advantage of the Chinese New Year to make up for it. In the blink of an eye, it was Laba. This morning, Jiang Tian received a call from his mother. Just as Jiang Tian expected, the Zhang family called. They want us to go to Yanjin for the Chinese New Year. In fact, Zhang Wanqing was a little nervous. She knew that Jiang Tian was very clear about his love and hate, and he was very unhappy with the Zhang family. To her surprise, Jiang Tian agreed without hesitation. All right, let's go and have a look. It sounded like the Zhang family did not tell Mom about the fight in the Zhang family. What are they up to? He wanted to see what kind of scheme the Zhang clan had in mind. All right, we'll arrive at Yanjin Airport at 4 p.m. Pick us up at the airport, and we'll go to your grandfather's house together. Zhang Wanqing heaved a sigh of relief. In the afternoon, Jiang Tian drove to Yanjin Airport, picked up his parents, and left the airport. He saw Zhang Danfeng and Zhang Chenzhen chatting happily outside the airport. Zhang Yilin was there too. Sister, brother-in-law. Zhang Chenzhen was back to his usual self, dressed in a suit and leather shoes. When he saw Zhang Wanqing, he walked up to her excitedly. Chenzhen, the last time I saw you was 5 years ago. Yilin has also grown taller. She's a big girl now. Zhang Wanqing held Zhang Cheng'en's hand, and her eyes turned red. She reached out and patted Zhang Yilin's head. Jiang Tian watched from the side calmly. The Zhang family is really good at scheming. Sending Zhang Chenzhen to contact the Zhang family was the most appropriate. Only his fourth uncle, Zhang Chenzhen, had a closer relationship with the Jiang family. It seemed that they had reused Zhang Chenzhen. Aunt, uncle, it's too cold here. My family has prepared a banquet at Wangjiang restaurant to welcome you. Let's eat there and talk. Zhang Danfeng greeted them affectionately. He took out a pack of Chunghwa cigarettes and offered them to Jiang Tian and Jiang Zhixing. Jiang Tian waved his hand to refuse. Jiang Zhixing accepted it. Zhang Danfeng even lit Jiang Zhixing's cigarette, showing great respect. Then let's get in the car. Zhang Wanqing happily agreed. She and Jiang Zhixing looked at each other, and they were a little happy. It turned out that Zhang Danfeng did not treat them like this. He was arrogant. It seemed that the Zhang family's attitude toward them had changed greatly this time. On the way, Jiang Tian asked Zhang Yilin, "Yilin, did you tell them about me destroying the Bai family?" Zhang Yilin said angrily, "You're smart." "It's not because I'm smart." Zhang Yilin shrugged helplessly. "Your fourth uncle found out about my Bugatti Veyron and asked me where I got it. I said that Chen Zifen gave it to me. Now, the 6 great families in Beijing are stunned by you. They said that I'm crazy and that you're lying. Your fourth uncle doesn't believe me. Do you think your eldest uncle will believe me?" Jiang Tian face-bombed. "So, am I that bad in everyone's eyes? It's too hurtful." Wangjiang restaurant was located at 89 Chang and Avenue. Next to it was the Chang and Club owned by the richest man in Hong Kong, Superman Lee. Although Wangjiang restaurant was not a top clubhouse, it was still one of the top restaurants in Beijing. It was as famous as Kunlun and the Wang Mansion. Wangjiang restaurant was a combination of Chinese and Western architecture. Although it was a high-rise building with more than 10 floors, the roof was covered with antique gray tiles and double eaves. In fact, many buildings in Beijing were built in this style in the last century, including the old train station. They got out of the car and threw the car keys to the valet. Then, they walked into the grand hall. Inside the hall, a red carpet was laid on the floor. Palace lanterns hung high in the sky. 2 rows of beautiful and tall girls in cheongsam stood on both sides of the hall. When they saw the guest enter, they bowed in unison and shouted in unison, "Welcome, young Master Zhang. Welcome." These girls were all part-time students from the Chinese Academy of Dramatic Arts, Beijing Film Academy, Beijing Music Academy, Beijing University of Foreign Studies and other universities. Any one of them would be a goddess. Seeing this, Zhang Danfeng curled his lips and sneered. Li Tianxuan came from a humble background. He's good at business, but his taste is a bit bad. While they were talking, a skinny middle-aged man in luxurious clothes, wearing a tang suit with an emperor glass-type ring on his hand, trotted over as if he was flying. He cupped his fists and bowed deeply. "Io, young Master Zhang, I didn't expect you to come. Why didn't you inform little Li?" Next to him, a dozen or so hostesses in palace attire had fear in their eyes as they bowed to Boss Li. Boss Li? Li Tianxuan, the boss of Wangjiang restaurant. He was the richest man in the food and beverage industry in Huaxia. Jiang Tian remembered that this person often appeared in the top 100 of the Forbes rich list. He even married a Taiwanese female celebrity, and gossip about him often appeared in the media. However, at this moment, he was extremely respectful towards Zhang Danfeng, as if he was a subordinate meeting a great leader. "Are there any more rooms? I want a heavenly box." Zhang Danfeng nodded reservedly and didn't even look at him. "You're here. Even if there isn't one, I'll make one for you," Li Tianxuan said flatteringly. Then he looked at Jiang Tian and asked, "These are?" "My aunt, Ms. Zhang Wanqing, is the CEO of the Medicine King Group. My uncle, Jiang Zhixing, works in Lingnan Province. My cousin, Jiang Tian, is the Crown Prince of the Medicine King Group." Zhang Danfeng introduced them one by one. "Oh, so it's Boss Jiang, Lord Jiang. I've heard a lot about you." Li Tianxuan suddenly had a whole new level of respect for Jiang Tian and the others. He shook hands warmly and handed over their business cards with both hands. Then he gave a thumbs up and praised sincerely. "This is the Medicine King Group's victory in the Battle of TKM. You've made Huaxia proud. You're welcome." Zhang Wanqing smiled gently. "Please follow me." Li Tianxuan hurriedly led the way. "Lord Zhang, Boss Zhang, Mr. Jiang, if you need anything, just tell them. You can just call me." Li Tianxuan led the group to a luxurious private room, then scolded a few waitresses in cheongsam sternly, "You're too arrogant. These are the distinguished guests of Lord Zhang and the Jiang family of Jinling. They are our most distinguished guests. If you don't serve them well, you can all pack up and get out. Yes, Boss Li. The waiters were so scared that their faces turned pale. They quickly bowed and agreed. Boss Li, it's just a family banquet. You're making everyone nervous. Do you think I'll dare to come again next time? Zhang Danfeng pulled Jiang Zhixing and his wife to sit down while he sat down at the door. He then raised his eyebrows and said unhappily, "You're right, Boss Zhang. I'll definitely change. I'll take my leave first." Li Tianxuan nodded his head and left. Zhang Danfeng invited Zhang Wanqing to order. Zhang Wanqing waved her hand and said with a smile, "Danfeng, you're very familiar with this place. You can do it." "All right, then I'll boldly represent you. I remember that my aunt likes pumpkin pie the most." Zhang Danfeng smiled as he ordered, "My dad and the others are already on their way. My parents don't like to eat out, so they want us to meet them after dinner." "You still remember? How thoughtful of you." Zhang Wanqing was slightly moved. They were a family after all. Family ties couldn't be cut off. Jiang Tian sneered in his heart. What was the Zhang family trying to do? They had put a lot of effort into this family banquet. Chapter 522. After ordering, Zhang Danfeng began to chat with Jiang Zhixing and his wife. He mainly talked about the Medicine King Group and the operation of his software pioneer park. He was quite insightful and hit the nail on the head every time. He also personally poured water for Jiang Tian's family. The atmosphere was quite harmonious. After a while, Zhang Zhonghua and his wife arrived with Zhang Qingji and Zhang Qinggong's families. The spacious private room was suddenly filled to the brim. "Jiang Tian, Yilin, I'm sorry about last time. It's my fault." Zhang Huchen took the initiative to apologize to Jiang Tian, but his voice was so low that Zhang Wanqing and her husband couldn't hear it. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Everyone chatted for a while and sat down. Zhang Zhonghua naturally sat at the head of the table since Zhang Jinghua and his wife were not there. "Wanqing, it turns out that we're far away from each other and our relationship is a bit distant. We should hang out more in the future." After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Zhang Zhonghua raised his wine glass with a smile and said with the demeanor of an elder, "Blood ties can't be cut off." "Yes, brother. It's all my fault for being too stubborn." Zhang Wanqing's eyes were slightly red. What was there not to be able to get over it? After all, they were close relatives. "Yes, we have to be united and twist into a rope. With the Zhang family's protection in the future, who can bully you in Huaxia?" Zhang Qinggong smiled proudly. Zhang Wanqing felt a little uncomfortable when she heard that. Not to mention that the Jiang family was now the #1 pharmaceutical company in Huaxia, and their assets were no less than the Zhang family's. Just with Jiang Tian, this monstrous talent, overseeing the Jiang family was not something the Zhang family could compare to. However, the other party had good intentions after all, so they couldn't say anything. Uncle is now the 3rd most powerful person in Yanjing. He's more than qualified to be a governor. Zhang Yue flattered with a smile. Uncle is still young now. He's only 50. He's a young cadre. In the future, he might be able to reach the central government and surpass the old man. If Uncle reaches the central government, it'll be different. Our Zhang family will be a top family. Zhang Huchen could also say a few polite words. Then, from now on, I won't make a fool of myself by making an entertainment city. I'll make a big project. That's earning money like water. Brother-in-law, smoke mine. All the leaders in the sea like to smoke this. Zhang Zhonghua gave Jiang Zhixing a specially supplied Red Panda cigarette and lit one for himself. He took a puff and smiled reservedly. "Zhixing, have you ever thought of coming to Beijing to develop your career? I'm friends with the CEOs of Huaguang Group, Huaneng Group, and Huarong Group under the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission of Beijing. If you want to go in, I can help you talk to them. The investment group in Su Province is also not bad. However, the scale of their assets was still a little small, and their platform could not be compared to the state-owned enterprises and the state-owned enterprises in Beijing. You're only a deputy director now. You need to work fast. Otherwise, you'll be old. That's right. Yu Wei is now the director of the Strategic Investment Department of Huaguang Group. Uncle, if you don't work harder, you'll be overtaken by the younger generation. Zhang Huchen interrupted. Without Uncle, I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. Uncle, let me toast you. Zhang Yuwei stood up and raised her wine glass respectfully with a smile. Sit down, sit down. This is a family banquet. I'm not your leader. Zhang Zhonghua took a sip. He was quite at ease and had the authority of an official. However, Jiang Zhixing said neither humbly nor arrogantly, Brother, I'm doing well in Jinling. I have no intention of moving for the time being. The province has just issued the appointment document. After the Spring Festival, I'll be the new Jinling Municipal Committee number 1. When he said that, everyone was shocked and embarrassed. They were shocked because Jiang Zhixing's promotion was too fast. 2 years ago, he was only the county magistrate of Qixia County. Now, he was the Jinling number 1? This was like a rocket rising at the speed of light. However, if you looked carefully at his resume, there was no problem at all. From the director to the deputy director to the director, there was no problem at all. Although Jinling couldn't be compared to Beijing, it was still a provincial capital. After all, he was the head of a province. His authority was almost the same as Zhang Zhonghua's. However, Zhang Zhonghua's lecturing tone and attitude just now, and everyone was still showing off. It was a little ridiculous. Zhang Zhonghua was quite shrewd after all. He smiled and raised his wine glass. Zhixing, you're good. I have to congratulate you and Wan Qing. Looking at the stiff smiles of Zhang Zhonghua and the others, as well as the unconcealable shock in their eyes, Jiang Zhixing downed his wine glass. Jiang Zhixing picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp. His heart was filled with joy. In the past, every time he went to the Zhang family's door, Zhang Zhonghua had a look of disdain and pointed at him from above as if he was a junior. When did he have the slightest bit of respect? But now? Zhang Danfeng smiled and said, However, I heard that the Jiang family shares in the Medicine King Group have been packed into the Medicine King Holdings registered in Beijing? Aunt, are you planning to develop in Beijing? Listed companies had to announce important matters. This news couldn't be hidden from Zhang Danfeng and the others. Zhang Wanqing smiled and said, It's like this. Our next step is to become an international company. It's most suitable to be in Beijing. She couldn't help but look at Jiang Tian proudly and said, This is also Jiang Tian's opinion. From the looks of it, Zhang Wanqing actually values Jiang Tian's opinion? Zhang Danfeng, Zhang Yuwei, and the others looked at each other, a little confused. They accepted that Jiang Tian practiced martial arts. After all, the Jiang family was rich. It wasn't impossible for them to find an expert to become a disciple of a famous teacher. However, when it came to business management, there was a lot of knowledge involved. How could Jiang Tian know? However, Zhang Zhonghua found an entry point. Wanqing, Beijing is a place where good and bad people mix together. The water is very deep. If you want to do well in Beijing, it won't be easy. Otherwise, it might even lead to a fatal disaster. Is it that exaggerated? Zhang Wanqing smiled. Ever since Jiang Tian rose to power, the Jiang family had been through all kinds of storms. Do you know Su Tianyun? Zhang Zhonghua asked mysteriously. Of course. The richest man in Huaxia. He started his business in real estate. Zhang Wanqing was stunned. It seemed that Zhang Zhonghua didn't know that the Su family offended the Jiang family and was wiped out by the Qin family. Yes, the Su family is much more powerful than your Jiang family. Su Tianyun is the richest man in China, and the Yirong Group is worth 200 billion. It's equivalent to 2 Jiang families. But now, guess what happened to them? Zhang Zhonghua slapped his thigh. With a loud bang, everyone jumped in fright, as if they had been hit by a wooden plank. What's wrong? I heard that he was going to hold his wedding at the Dynasty Club in Beijing. There's no news now. I heard some bad rumors. Zhang Danfeng, Zhang Huchen, Zhang Yuwei, and the others were shocked and asked curiously. The Qin family destroyed them. Zhang Zhonghua said with lingering fear. It seems that they offended the recently famous Kong Teichu. The Qin family stripped them of their assets and expelled them overseas. Su Shiji was beaten into a vegetative state by Qin Zongheng in public. The Qin family is too cruel. The Su family, the richest family in China. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time, feeling that it was unbelievable. The Su family is just the Qin family's white glove. Su Shiji's grandfather is a guard of Qin Zhong. How can he survive after offending Master Kong? Zhang Danfeng was knowledgeable and took it for granted. The topic quickly turned to the hottest topic recently, Kong Teichu. Everyone was whispering and discussing. I heard that the 6 major martial arts families are now Kong Teichu's disciples. The 6 families are planning to hold a adjudicator ceremony to celebrate this Kong Teichu defeating the Bai family and dominating Yanjin. Countless tycoons, officials, and celebrities want to be Master Kang's disciples. They are all preparing for this ceremony. Yeah, I heard that too. It said that you have to be one of the top 100 tycoons on the list. If you want to be Master Kang's disciple, you have to pay at least 1 billion Huaxia dollars. So much money? Don't think it's expensive. You still have to be recommended by the 6 major families. The 6 major families are too high to reach. Do you think they will pay you any attention if you don't get a billion or so? Zhang Youwei's eyes shone with adoration as she sighed with an intoxicated expression. I heard that this Kong Teichu is only in his 20s, but he is already dominating an entire country. Oh, if only I could get to know him. Forget it. You wanted to get to know Qin Zongheng at the last gathering, but he threw your name card into the trash can in a blink of an eye. Zhang Huchen rolled his eyes at her and said with disdain. Unexpectedly, the arrogant Zhang Yue didn't refute and only sighed. Don't you know that this Kong Teichu is? Zhang Wanqing wanted to laugh and blurted it out. However, Jiang Zhixing stepped on her under the table. What are you doing? Zhang Wanqing turned around and asked angrily. Let's listen to them first. Jiang Zhixing had been in politics for many years, so he was more shrewd. The Zhang family wouldn't talk about family matters with you. These topics seemed to be fleeting, but they all had a purpose. He wanted to see what the Zhang family was up to. Wanqing, you are quite knowledgeable. You have heard of Kong Teichu. That makes things easier. Zhang Zhonghua looked at Zhang Wanqing and said, you should know that you and the Jiang family are nothing but weak ants in front of the peerless experts like Jiang Taichu and the 6 major families of Yanjin. Zhang Wanqing didn't say anything. She pursed her lips and smiled. What you said is interesting. What do you mean by knowledgeable? I have heard of Kong Teichu. He is my son, okay? Chapter 523. Don't treat this as child's play. If you want to do business in Yanjing, you have to be on good terms with these superpowers. Zhang Zhonghua's expression was stern, then he smiled proudly. If that's what you want, I can introduce you to them. To tell you the truth, Dan Feng is on good terms with the new head of the Fu family, Fu Jiuge, and a few other top young masters. Yes, that makes sense. Jiang Tian nodded in agreement. But, big brother, how can we get on good terms with them? Jiang Zhixing and Jiang Tian looked at each other and smiled. It turned out that the game of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger was so fun. Then, let these guys with excessive sense of superiority be proud for a while. You can offer 10 billion. Zhang Zhonghua sipped his tea and said calmly, I'll sell my old face and introduce you to them. As long as you become friends with these superpowers, you won't be far from Kong Teichu. In Huaxia, you can basically do whatever you want. You can settle all the official and business relationships in one fell swoop. If you're not my family, I won't waste this effort. His tone was condescending. It was as if asking the Jiang family to pay 10 billion was a great favor from him, and the Jiang family should be grateful. When Zhang Wanqing heard this, she felt that her husband's approach was right. If she had just revealed her son's identity, they probably wouldn't have known that they were holding back their evil intentions. I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult for us to take out 10 billion. The cash flow is also quite tight. Forget it. Zhang Wanqing shook her head. Hearing this, everyone was slightly taken aback. Zhang Zhonghua smiled a little stiffly and said, "Wan Qing, you're silly. You don't know the stakes in this. If we offend these big shots, we've always been operating legally. We don't offend anyone, and our orders are very stable. Let's not think about this for now." Zhang Wanqing declined tactfully. Zhang Zhonghua stared at Zhang Wanqing with a slightly cold expression. He leaned back in his chair and lit a cigarette. He finally revealed his true intentions and sneered, "Wanqing, I'm afraid you'll have to pay 10 billion. Zhang Wanqing smiled. Some time ago, Jiang Tian beat up Pan Jiajun, the son of Deputy Director Pan of the FDA, outside the Fragrant Hills Villas. Both of his legs were fractured. Zhang Zhonghua said coldly. Deputy Chief Pan said that he was going to teach Jiang Tian a lesson. He was furious. It was only when I went to apologize to him that the Pan family agreed to let you go. If that's your attitude, then I won't care anymore. What? Jiang Tian, you even hit Pan Jiajun? Don't you know that they are from the Fu family? Zhang Yuwei and Zhang Huchen looked at Jiang Tian as if he were crazy. In the past few days, they had been learning about Kong Teichu and the 6 great families. They were well aware of how terrifying a martial arts family was. The Pan family and the Fu family were on good terms. Wouldn't that be troublesome? Jiang Tian, is that true? Zhang Chenzhen looked nervously at Jiang Tian and said, "Jiang Tian, why don't you just give in and apologize?" Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Zhang Qing'an's heart skipped a beat. He looked at Zhang Zhonghua and begged, "Brother, you can't just ignore this. But can you please reduce the money? The Medicine King Group has just started to develop. It's not easy." Zhang Yilin spoke up for Jiang Tian. "It's not cousin's fault. They were the ones who molested cousin's friend first." "Shut up, Yilin." Zhang Danfeng scolded her harshly. Then he looked coldly at Jiang Tian and said disdainfully, "Jiang Tian, do you think you're so great just because you know some martial arts? The Fu family is a martial arts family. Do you think you can shake it? Jiang Dan, you're stupid. It wasn't easy for the Jiang family to cultivate a talent like you. You're destroying your own future. You're not just destroying yourself. You're destroying the Jiang family too. Jiang Tian, you don't know how deep the water in Yanjing is." Suddenly, a group of people began to criticize Jiang Tian. Of course, these criticisms were wrapped in the cloak of, "I'm saying this for your own good. What's done is done. They're just a few ants. If there's any problem, I'll take care of it myself." Jiang Tian's expression didn't change at all. "Good, you little bastard. You're really arrogant." Zhang Zhonghua was so angry that he laughed. He slammed the table and his slightly widened eyes were full of coldness and murderous intent. "A month ago, you beat up Huchen and Qingji. Now you're stirring up trouble in Yanjing. Isn't it enough that you've offended the Song family? You're pushing the Zhang family and the Jiang family into a fire pit. I wanted to help you mediate, but it seems that I've been thinking too much. I've been meddling in other people's business." Once he was angry, the atmosphere in the dining room immediately changed. Swords were drawn and the smell of gunpowder was full of hostility. "Jiang Tian, you beat up your uncle and Huchen. What's going on?" Zhang Wanqing asked in shock. "Auntie, it's like this." Zhang Yilin told the story concisely. Zhang Wanqing's brows furrowed after hearing it. On the other hand, Jiang Tian slowly sipped his tea before raising his head to look at Zhang Zhonghua and faintly saying, "Zhang Zhonghua, you've been meddling in other people's business. What's the 6 dominant families of Yanjing? They're nothing. Are they worthy of our friendship? You actually called him by his name and even insulted him by calling him a dog. You have no respect for your elders." Zhang Danfeng and the others were stunned and couldn't believe it. Good. You've got guts. Zhang Wanqing, is this how you teach your son?" Zhang Zhonghua was so angry that his body trembled and his face turned purple. He didn't dare to vent his anger on Jiang Tian, so he turned around and stared at Zhang Wanqing. "Uneducated. Boorish. So what if you know martial arts? You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You're brainless. You won't be able to survive more than 3 days in Yanjing. Humph, you've been ignorant and incompetent since you were young. You've caused a lot of trouble and now it seems that you haven't improved at all. You're just a bunch of country bumpkins. You think you can do whatever you want in Gene City? You're like frogs at the bottom of a well. You're so rude. Why don't you apologize to your uncle? Other than the fourth uncle's family, the other uncles and aunts were so angry that their faces turned pale. Shut up all of you. Zhang Wanqing slammed the table and exuded the domineering aura of the medical queen. Everyone was silent. With tears in her eyes, she asked sternly, "Brother, this is the last time I call you brother. If you call Jiang Tian a bastard, what do you think Zhixing and I are?" Good, Wanqing. You've grown up. How dare you slam the table in front of your brother? Zhang Zhongguo's smile became colder and colder. He finally revealed his true colors and said lightly, "The head of the Fu family, Bureau Chief Pan Jiajun, and the others wanted to negotiate with you. Since you and your son are so capable, you should be able to handle this small matter. You can talk to them yourselves." Receiving the hint in his eyes, Zhang Danfeng immediately got up and walked out of the door to make a call. Meanwhile, in an even more luxurious private room in Wangjiang restaurant. The room was more than 300 square meters in size and was brightly lit. At a large round table, more than 10 middle-aged men with extraordinary bearings were drinking and chatting merrily with each other. A group of beautiful women with their hair tied up in buns and dressed in red palace attire shuttled back and forth like fish, serving wine in dishes. Each of these beauties in palace attire could be a model for a fashion magazine. In the eyes of ordinary people, their temperament and appearance were at the level of goddesses. But now, they could only gently serve these important people food and wine, as if they were palace maids serving the emperor. If there were people from the upper class of Yanjin present, they would have recognized these people. Those in the business world were worth more than 10 billion yuan and those in the government were above the level of director. However, none of these so-called successful people cared about the beautiful woman serving the dishes. Their reverent gazes were all focused on the fat man who looked like a meatball. Let me tell you something. The adjudicator Master Kong is like a god. I heard that he can fly in the sky. Fat Fu smiled smugly. Old Pan, the deputy director of the Food and Drug Administration, smiled and said, "Family Lord Fu, have you really met Master Kong? When will you introduce us to him? How are you qualified to meet Master Kong? He doesn't like to talk to common people like us." Fatty Fu gave him a disdainful look and said with a complacent smile. In the past, Fat Fu had to be polite to Deputy Director Pan. After all, he was only a distant nephew of Fu Hongxue. However, things were different now. With the support of Chen Zifen and the others, he had stabilized his position as the patriarch of the Fu clan and gathered all the remaining forces. He was now on the same level as the patriarchs of the other 5 great clans. So what if Deputy Director Pan was a deputy director? He still had to listen to him. "Please forgive me, Family Lord Fu. I will drink a glass of wine as punishment." Deputy Bureau Chief Pan hurriedly picked up his glass and drained it in one gulp. Then he joked, "But since Patriarch Fu was able to get acquainted with Jiang Taichu, then under Patriarch Fu's leadership, we will definitely be able to achieve great things." Seeing Deputy Director Pan's servile attitude, Fat Fu was very happy. He smiled smugly and said, "Alas, Family Lord Fu used to be very successful. I was just following Family Lord Fu to make a living. However, Fu Hongxue's health was not good. He suddenly died of a heart attack, leaving behind a mess and many brothers. I had no choice but to take on this responsibility." Deputy Director Pan smiled and said, "I heard that tens of billions of assets of Family Lord Fu have fallen into the hands of Family Lord Fu. Now, even the chairman of the group is you. It's really worth celebrating." "Alas, I was just a small director of the Fu family financial group. My Uncle Fu ate the meat, and I was satisfied with the soup. Who would have thought that Uncle Fu's health was not good and he suddenly died?" Several members of Family Lord Fu were not on good terms with Chen Zifen and Qin Zongheng, so they were all driven away. They could only entrust me to act as their agent for the time being. I am ashamed. Although he said that he was ashamed, his fat face was beaming with joy. There was no trace of politeness in his eyes. Seeing this, the rich people and high-ranking officials around him started to flatter him and flatter him. Fatty Fu was so happy that his soul almost flew to the sky. At this time, Deputy Director Pan suddenly received a phone call, and his face suddenly darkened. "What's wrong?" Fu Jioga asked. "Don't mention it." Deputy Director Pan shook his head resentfully and said, "My son's leg was broken by a guy from another place. Zhang Zhonghua of the Zhang family was a relative of that guy, so he mediated and agreed on compensation. However, the other party refused to admit it at the last minute. This person is drinking in the heavenly private room downstairs." Zhang Zhonghua? Who does he think he is? It turns out that he is still trembling in fear when he sees family Lord Fu. After hearing this, Fu Jioga's fat face was full of contempt. Then, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. He slammed the table, stood up and said angrily, "Is he not afraid of family Lord Fu now that I am the head of family Lord Fu? Let's go and see." Seeing that Yanjing's new aristocrat, Fat Fu, had made a move, everyone quickly got up and followed him out of the private room. Chapter 524. Not long after Zhang Danfeng left, he returned to the private room. At the same time, a sarcastic voice sounded, "Jiang Tun, aren't you very powerful? Now that my father and Lord Fu are here, let's see how long you can keep this up." A fat guy walked in, escorted by a few middle-aged men with extraordinary bearings. Pan Jiajun, who was the last one standing, pointed at Jiang Tian and yelled anxiously, "Stop! Lord Fu, Chief Pan." Shocked, Zhang Danfeng, Zhang Yue, Zhang Huchen, and the other youngsters hastily rose to their feet and bowed respectfully. Even Zhang Zhonghua didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly stood up and sighed, "Lord Fu, Deputy Chief Pan, I don't know what to do. I can't persuade these stubborn blockheads. You can talk to them yourselves." Zhang Huchen pointed at Jiang Tian with a wine bottle in his hand and said, "Jiang Tian, I know you can fight, but you're definitely not a match for the Fu clan. I advise you to calm down a little." They came so quickly. They must have come prepared. Peaceful means before resorting to force. Zhang Wanqing secretly sneered in her heart, feeling sad. At this moment, her last hope for the Zhang family had been shattered. It was obvious that the Zhang family hated the Jiang family. They didn't really want to help, they just wanted money. They were trying to scare and trick the Jiang family. Even if the Jiang family handed over the money, they wouldn't be able to make friends with the so-called big families. They wouldn't be able to get anything. They were closer to the big families and might even kill the Jiang family and take over the Jiang family's assets. "Kid, aren't you very arrogant? Why don't you try to hit me again? Now that my father and Lord Fu are here, are you scared?" Pan Jiajun limped over to Jiang Tian arrogantly, showing off his prowess as he laughed complacently. "Scared? Scared to death." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "I'm scared that your legs will be broken again. There's no wheelchair for you to sit in." Deputy Chief Pan's face was livid. He questioned in a cold voice, "Zhang Wanqing, your son is very powerful. But don't forget that you still have a few export approval cards with me. Do you not want to pass them?" "Fatty Fu, is this how you lead people? I think you are tired of being the head of the family." Jiang Tian ate his fruit slowly and said coldly without looking up, "What? You brat, how dare you call Lord Fu Fatty Fu?" Lord Fu was so angry that he was trembling all over. "Don't tell me you don't know that this is Fu Jiao? The new yen." At this moment, Zhang Zhonghua was practically certain that he had Jiang Tian in his grasp, and he pointed at Jiang Tian as he roared furiously, displaying the righteous indignation that he ought to have. "Jiang Tian, no matter how capable you are still no match for Fatty Fu. So what if you have a cultivation level? I only need to say a few words to make Fatty Fu suppress you." Zhang Danfeng sneered in his heart. He held his teacup and sipped his tea leisurely, his eyes full of pride. "What did you say? How dare you insult Lord Fu like this? Do you want to die?" Pan Jiajun's face changed color and was about to explode. "It's just as I expected. With Jiang Tian's character, he only needs to call these people over. He doesn't need to fan the flames at all to fight with Fatty Fu and the others. Seeing this, everyone shook their heads. Their faces were full of schadenfreude as they waited for the Fu clan leader to make a move. Unexpectedly, Fu Jiu, who had been standing there for a long time and trembling all over, jumped up and kicked Pan Jejun in the waist, sending him flying to the ground. "Lord Fu, why did you hit me? Didn't you come to settle this matter for me? Hurry up and deal with this brat." Pan Jejun fell to the ground with a dumbfounded look on his face. Fu Jiu had just been promoted and was originally a distant descendant of the Fu family. He couldn't enter the core of the family and was on the same level as Pan Jejun's father. He was in the entertainment industry and was easygoing, so Pan Jejun was very close to him. In fact, after Fatty Fu became the head of the family, he was very proud. He accepted all kinds of invitations, went to all kinds of occasions, and helped people settle things everywhere. He was known as the best family head in history. But Pan Jejun didn't expect Fatty Fu to hit him. For a moment, he was very confused and couldn't understand. In fact, the moment he saw Jiang Tian, Fu Jiu was stunned. Isn't this the adjudicator Kong Teichu? How does he know the Zhang family? When he saw Pan Jejun provoking Jiang Tian, he was almost scared out of his wits. Why is this Pan Jejun so blind? How dare he provoke me? Is he trying to get me killed? I'm the one who's forced to do something beyond my ability. I don't deserve to be the head of the family. I don't even have the strength to truss up a chicken. Chen Zifen pushed me to be the head of the family in order to weaken the Fu family. If I offend Master Kong, how can I be the head of the family? Screw you. Shut up. Fatty Fu was full of hatred. He hated the heavens, the earth, and the air. He wanted to kill someone, so he kicked Pan Jejun's calf fiercely. Pan Jejun's calf immediately broke. His wound had just healed not long ago, so how could he withstand a second blow? Pan Jejun was in so much pain that tears came out. He screamed at the top of his lungs and hugged his leg as he rolled around. "Get this dog out of here." The head of the Fu family waved his hand energetically. He was quite arrogant. Several attendants hurriedly carried Pan Jejun out. "Head of the Fu family, did you make a mistake?" Zhang Zhonghua stepped forward with a puzzled face and looked at Zhang Danfeng. "Danfeng, didn't you explain the situation?" Fatty Fu asked tentatively, "Old Zhang, is this Jiang? Mr. Jiang a relative of your family?" Head of the Fu family, Jiang Tian is actually our relative. When Zhang Danfeng heard this, he also thought that Fatty Fu had made a mistake. He cupped his hands and smiled apologetically. Alas, this person does have some kung fu, but he lacks family education since he was young. He acts rudely and ruthlessly, and is stubborn. The Zhang family is hated by everyone. He even scolded you just now. You can just deal with him. You don't have to give the Zhang family any face. Although Fatty Fu didn't have the slightest cultivation, he was very experienced in fighting Shanghai. He could see too clearly. From what he heard, it seemed that the Zhang family didn't know Master Kang's strength, and Master Kang didn't seem to be very popular with them. He slapped Zhang Danfeng's face, and blood spurted out of his nose. He sneered and said, "What are you talking about? Don't you know the rules? Head of the Fu family, what did I do wrong?" After being slapped in public, a cold light flashed in the depths of Zhang Danfeng's eyes, but he hid it very well and even smiled apologetically. Just when everyone was puzzled, a voice suddenly rang out. Fatty Fu ran to Jiang Tian like a loyal dog that had seen its master. He bowed deeply, and his head almost touched the ground. He said in the most respectful tone he had ever used in his life, "Greetings, Master Kang." "Little Fu." "Master Kang?" The whole place was dead silent. Everyone was dumbfounded and looked at the rising star of Yanjin in disbelief. Like a believer who had seen a god, he trembled uneasily and stood in front of Jiang Tian. "Jiang, Master Kang?" Zhang Danfeng felt as if a bolt of lightning had flowed through his body, and his scalp was numb. There must be something wrong. "Master Kang Tiju in his 20s. It can't be him, can it?" Suddenly, a thought flashed in Zhang Qingji's mind, and his eyes were suddenly filled with fear. Clang! Zhang Huchen's hand suddenly trembled, and the wine bottle fell on the table and smashed into pieces. How is this possible? How is this possible? He is just a good-for-nothing. How can he climb to a height that I can only look up to? Zhang Danfeng's eyes were slightly widened, and he stared at Jiang Tian in horror, but in his heart he was screaming at the top of his lungs. Little Fu, you are quite enthusiastic, aren't you? Do you want to be an arbiter? Jiang Tian sipped his tea and said slowly with a smile. Thump. Thump. Fatty Fu was so scared that his heart almost exploded on the spot. He directly knelt on the ground, and the fat on his body kept trembling. He said in a trembling voice, Grandmaster Jiang, you are the true judge. This lowly one doesn't dare to do that. I didn't know you were here, so I accidentally bumped into you. Please don't. He knelt down. Seeing this, Zhang Zhonghua was basically certain of Jiang Tian's identity. His heart suddenly tightened, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He is a martial artist. He once scared away by Ling Fei and made Zhan Long submit to him. This time he suppressed Fatty Fu. Is he Kong Teichu? Zhang Youwei's heart skipped a beat, and her face turned pale. Her delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly. There was only one thought in her mind. The Zhang family is facing a disaster this time. Chapter 525. Zhang Huchen's heart was like a stormy sea that kept churning. His legs, which were used to running with weights for 10 kilometers, felt weak like noodles. He remembered how he had humiliated Jiang Tian before. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. He almost peed his pants. Kong Teichu was the man who had destroyed the Bai family and suppressed the 6 dominant families. He is indeed the legendary adjudicator Kong Teichu. So, this is your trump card? You really hid your trump card well. Zhang Danfeng's heart was filled with sorrow. He smiled bitterly. Jiang Tian, you win. I originally thought that in terms of family background, ability, and tactics, I would be able to control you. Who would have thought that after calculating everything, you would actually be such an expert? We have lost everything. The Zhang family has lost everything this time. Although the ants didn't know much about the inside story, they knew that Jiang Tian was someone they couldn't afford to offend. They all looked at each other in dismay, standing close to the wall, not daring to meet Jiang Tian's eyes. They kept quiet out of fear, not even daring to breathe loudly. Deputy Director Pan was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. He quickly said with a flattering face, Madam Zhang, Grandmaster Jiang, I'm really sorry. My son was negligent in disciplining him and offended Grandmaster Jiang. He deserved to die. I'll break his legs when I get back. I'll punish him severely. Zhang Wanqing didn't have time to talk to him. She waved her hand and said, Deputy Director Pan, don't interrupt. We have some family matters to attend to. All right, I'm not going to argue with you. You can leave now. Jiang Tian waved his hand at Fat Fu and the others as if he was shooing flies away. He didn't want to argue with such a small fry. Besides, it was hard to find someone as useless as him. He was the perfect person to take over the Fu family for him. Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life. I'll take my leave now. Fat Fu was so excited that tears came out of his eyes. He kowtowed and thanked Qin Fan repeatedly. Then he rolled out of the door like a meatball. There was dead silence in the room. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian in embarrassment, fear, and disbelief, not knowing how to break the silence. Zhang Zhonghua had been in the bureaucracy for many years, and his skin was thick. His face was full of joy as he raised his wine cup and said, Knowledge Executor Wanqing, I didn't expect you to raise such an outstanding son. He actually became the judge of Huaxia. Congratulations! This is not only the fortune of the Jiang clan, but also the fortune of the Zhang clan. With a face full of joy, he said, Don't misunderstand. I was just joking with you guys, don't take it to heart. He instantly lowered his head and admitted defeat. Cultivator, the adjudicator of martial arts. The weight was too heavy. If Jiang Tian wanted to argue with them, he could crush the entire Zhang clan with a single finger. If the Zhang family could bury the hatchet with Jiang Tian and obtain Jiang Tian's protection, it would be a meteoric rise and they would become one of the top families in Beijing. As for Face? How much was Face worth? As long as he could curry favor with Jiang Tian, he wouldn't hesitate to kneel to Jiang Tian. Joke? Haha, it's all a joke, right? Zhang Wanqing smiled faintly, but her eyes were cold. Zhang Qingji smiled awkwardly and said, "What else can it be if it's not a joke? After all, we're a family, right? Half of Jiang Tian's blood belongs to the Zhang clan. Big brother just wanted to show you the strength of the Zhang clan. I didn't expect the flood to hit the Dragon King's temple. It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Wanqing, don't take it to heart. Big brother, your joke is too big. You have to drink as punishment." Zhang Qinggong also raised his wine cup and said, "Jiang Tian has such extraordinary achievements. Our Zhang clan will hold a banquet for 3 days to announce it to the world. Let's see who dares to look down on the Zhang clan in the future." As he said that, he gave Zhang Qingzhen a crazy look. Zhang Qingzhen sighed helplessly and said, "Wanqing, Jiangtan, after all, blood is thicker than water." For a moment, many of the Zhang clan members present raised their wine cups and congratulated, flattered, and said soft words. "Fourth Uncle Yilin will be leaving first." Jiang Tian didn't even look at them. He got up and left with a flick of his sleeves. "Thank you for your hospitality. We're tired. We'll take our leave first." Zhang Wanqing also got up. There wasn't a trace of reluctance or emotion on her graceful face. "Wanqing, stay at home tonight. We haven't seen each other for so many years. Let's catch up." Zhang Zhonghua pitifully urged her to stay. "It's more convenient to stay at home. It's not like a hotel. It's cold and impersonal." Yes. I just bought a villa there. The decorations are pretty good. Stay there." Everyone's face was full of joy as they enthusiastically urged her to stay. "I'm not staying at a hotel. I'm staying at Yuhua Mountain Villa. The environment is okay." Zhang Wanqing's words made everyone speechless. Everyone was dumbfounded. Yuhua Villa. That was the place where the founding fathers lived. What villa could compare to it? It was simply embarrassing. "You have to stay at home for a day. Old master and old madam have always missed you. They always talk about you and care about you." Zhang Wanqing's aunt was like a petitioner who was holding a judge. She held Zhang Wanqing's hand tightly and begged with a face full of pleading. "We'll talk about it later. I'm quite busy." Zhang Wanqing only lightly shook her aunt's arm, causing her aunt's arm to go numb. She unconsciously let go of her hand. When they went out, Jiang Zhixing smiled and said, "Big brother, I'll treat you to this meal." "Ha, I've always wanted to treat you to a meal, but I never had the chance." Zhang Zhonghua followed behind like a eunuch serving an emperor. He was extremely nervous when he heard that. He quickly waved his hand and smiled apologetically. "Zhixing, it's not easy for you to come to Yanjing. How can I let you spend money?" He lowered his voice and said with a fawning expression, "Help me say a few words to Wanqing. I'll treat you later." He sped up and walked to the side of the car. He helped Jiang Tian open the door and carefully covered the upper edge of the door frame with his hand. He laughed and said, "Jiangtan, get in the car. Drive slowly on the road. Don't hit anything." Jiang Tian looked straight ahead and didn't even look at Zhang Zhonghua. "Don't flaunt my identity everywhere. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." I know. Big shots keep a low profile. Uncle is not a child. How can he not know?" Zhang Zhonghua's face was full of flattery. He glared at Zhang Danfeng and the others. "If anyone dares to say a word outside, I'll break your legs." The others agreed and helped Jiang Zhixing and his wife open the car door. Their attitude was like that of subordinates treating their leaders. In a large office on the 5th floor of Wangjiang Restaurant facing the street. In front of the floor-to-ceiling window, Li Tianxuan, the chairman of Wangjiang Restaurant Culture Group, was shocked when he saw this scene. What the fuck? Is this a central leader? How can he suppress Zhang Zhonghua and Zhang Danfeng? Behind him was the female store manager, who was wearing a professional suit. She was unusually tall and had exquisite makeup on. Her beautiful eyes were filled with seductiveness, And she said in a flirtatious manner, "Boss Lee, there was a lot of commotion in the heavenly dining room tonight. Young Master Jiajun was beaten up and carried out. Even Fatty Fu, the new rich in Yanjin, bowed to this young Master Jiang. He was so shocked that he knelt down." Li Tianxuan came from a humble background. The reason why he could turn Wangjiang restaurant into the top restaurant in Yanjin in a short time was because of this group of insightful staff. With them, he was one of the most well-informed people in Yanjin. He was the one who could achieve the most. Then he's really a top-notch figure. Li Tianxuan's face was full of shock. His eyes gradually became scorching hot. He then said with a serious face, "If young Master Jiang comes here again, no, to any of the Wangjiang restaurant branches, you must inform me immediately. I must make friends with this person. If it's done, you'll get a villa." Meanwhile, Zhang Zhonghua was dragging Zhang Qingzhen and Zhang Qingji back to the Zhang family's mansion to meet Zhang Jinghua. Due to the importance of this matter, he even called a few of his granduncles. What do you think? After all, we've already made friends with the Fu family. Wan Qing should have agreed, right? Zhang Jinghua sat on an armchair, holding a cup of hot tea. He yawned, took a sip, and asked indifferently. In his opinion, if Patriarch Fu were to step in and use both kindness and coercion, wouldn't Zhang Wanqing obediently give in and hand over the 10 billion? Zhang Zhonggua's face was complicated. He said with a deep voice, "Dad, we've made a mistake. Jiang Tian's identity is not ordinary." "HM?" Zhang Jinghua raised his eyebrows and said unhappily, "I know he's not ordinary. He's a martial artist, but he can't withstand the power of the Fu family." "What? Won't he give in? Then let the Fu family deal with him." "Humph. Do you really think you're all grown up and won't submit to the Zhang family?" Old Madame Su Shulan pressed her walking stick against the ground and said fiercely, "Then let's teach the Jiang family a lesson. Didn't Jiang Tian beat up Pan Jiajun? Let the Pan family do it. Let's not stop them." "No, no, no, Dad, Mom, I've made a mistake." Zhang Zhonghua was extremely anxious. Sweating profusely, he said, "Jiang Ting he's Jiang Taichu." Bang. Zhang Jinghua's face changed drastically. His hand trembled violently and the Song Dynasty porcelain teacup that he had bought at the Christie's autumn auction fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. However, he didn't even look at the antique teacup. Instead, he looked at Zhang Zhonghua and said, "What did you say? Say it again. Who is Jiang Tian?" "Dad, we've made a mistake. Jiang Tian is Kong Taichu." Zhang Zhonghua shook his head and sighed. He looked as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. "How is that possible? You must have made a mistake." Zhang Zhonghua couldn't believe it. He thought that he was hallucinating or that Zhang Zhonghua had lost his mind. He knew his grandson better than anyone else. How could he possibly be Jiang Taichu? How could he possibly be Jiang Taichu? Su Shulan also said in surprise, "Yes, boss. Kong Taichu is a godlike figure. Jiang Tian is a bastard. Dad, Mom, how could I have made a mistake on such a big matter?" Zhang Zhonghua was so anxious that he beat his chest and stamped his feet. He told them everything that had happened that night in detail. He made Lord Fu kneel. "I'm afraid he is the real deal." Su Shulan felt chills all over her body. She couldn't help but shiver. She looked at Zhang Jinghua with fear in her eyes. "He's Kong Taichu? He's Kong Taichu!" Zhang Jinghua shouted. Dee stood up with a livid face and paced back and forth in the hall like a manic lion. "Bastards, a bunch of bastards." He was a well-mannered man, but he couldn't help but curse. His eyes were filled with anger and he looked like a ferocious tiger. Chapter 526. Zhang Qinggong was shocked and hurried to persuade him. "Dad, don't be angry. Don't be impulsive. You can't mess with Jiang Tian's family." "I'm not angry? You're pissing me off." Zhang Jinghua swung his crutch and smashed it on Zhang Qinggong's head. Blood spurted out and Zhang Qinggong fell to the ground. Zhang Jinghua was so angry that he even wanted to kill someone. The crutch made of dense and hard old sandalwood broke immediately. "Dad, aren't you afraid of killing me? There wasn't much fat on the head." Zhang Chenggong grimaced in pain and covered his head. Zhang Yue felt sorry for her father. She helped Zhang Chenggong up and said, "Grandpa, why did you hit my dad?" "Son of a bitch, you think I should hit you or not? How did you do your intelligence work? You deserve to die." Zhang Jinghua picked up the remaining half of the walking stick and smashed it on Zhang Chenggong's face, causing his skin to split open and his flesh to split open. He hit him and said angrily, "It's been a month since Jiang Tian made trouble in the Zhang family, right? What did you find out? You only found out about the cash flow of the Medicine King Group. I told you to focus on Jiang Tian." "Jiang Tian? What about you? How did you do it?" "Dad, the 6 families have been guarding Kong Teichu's information. How could I find out anything? I'm just a business consulting company." Zhang Chenggong was beaten until he looked like a monkey on a red-hot iron plate. He jumped around and tried to block the attacks in vain while he threw the wok madly. "If you ask me, Qingji should be the one to find out. He has connections in the National Security Agency. You think I didn't find out? The National Security Agency doesn't have the authority to do that." Zhang Qingji said gloomily. "I've told you that this matter needs to be treated carefully and investigated carefully like walking on thin ice. You promised me that the information would never be wrong. But now?" Zhang Jinghua shouted at the top of his lungs, "What do you think we should do now? Don't tell me you want me to lower my voice and apologize to that little bastard?" Zhang Jinghua threw away his crutches. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He clutched his chest in pain and sat down on the chair. It seemed that he was about to have a heart attack. "Old man, don't be angry." Su Shulan hurriedly found some boiled water and fed the old man a few special pills. Then she helped him massage his chest. "Jiang Tian, after all, half of the Zhang clan's blood flows in his veins. He won't be ruthless, will he?" After a moment of silence, Zhang Yue consoled. "Hee, how would you know how ruthless Jiang Tian is?" Zhang Jinghua smiled bitterly and sighed. "I received news that his uncle, Jiang Shoren, was stripped of his official position and retired early. Now that he has suffered a stroke, no one cares about him. His cousin, Jiang Qingfeng, is still in prison. This is his father's closest relative. Even he is so ruthless, let alone us who have not been in contact with his family for more than 10 years. Zhang Yue no longer spoke, her face deathly pale. "He is Kong Teichu." After Zhang Jinghua took the medicine, the dizziness disappeared a little. However, his body and mind were completely dominated by fear and regret. That's a ruthless character who kills people like flies. He's a transcendent being who even dares to fight the Japanese army head-on. Hee, do you think he will care about this little bit of kinship? Hearing this, Zhang Yue lowered her head helplessly. "Danfeng, you are too aggressive and not cautious enough." Zhang Jinghua stared at Zhang Danfeng and said in a low voice, "I know I was wrong." Zhang Danfeng was startled and then he was shrouded in despair. This was the first time in his life that his grandfather had given him such a negative evaluation. He knew that he might lose the chance to become the family lord forever. Everyone's face was pale and they looked despondent and hopeless. No one said a word. The entire hall was silent. The atmosphere was oppressive and the air was so thick that it felt like water was about to drip out. Seeing this, Zhang Chenjen shook his head and lamented in his mind. "I have told you that life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully a poor young man, but none of you listened. Unfortunately, there is no medicine for regret in this world. We have to come up with a plan on how to resolve the conflict with Jiang Tian and the Jiang family." Seeing that everyone was silent, Zhang Jinghua was even more disappointed. He seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. He said with a dejected face, "Before we discuss this, I have a suggestion." Everyone turned to look at him. Zhang Jinghua said weakly, "I am old and I don't have the energy to control the Zhang family anymore. Now, I announce that I will retire from the family. The position of family head will be assumed by fourth brother Chenjen. Zhang Yilin will also be in charge of the Yanjin Software Pioneer Park. Let's vote." That? Zhang Chenjen couldn't believe it and exclaimed. Everyone else also exclaimed. Zhang Zhongguo's face was full of shock. Zhang Danfeng's face turned pale. He had expected this, but he didn't expect the old man to be so decisive. I agree. Third great-uncle was the first to nod. He was Zhang Jinghua's third great-uncle. He was already 100 years old and had a lot of prestige in the Zhang family. I agree. I agree. A few of the great-uncles and the leaders of the branch families nodded in agreement. In the end, Zhang Qingji and Zhang Qinggong, who felt powerless, also agreed. If so, from now on, Qinzhen will be the family lord. Zhang Jinghua gave up his seat without hesitation. Hearing this, Zhang Zhonghua slumped on the chair like a puddle of mud. Zhang Danfeng had no choice but to give up his seat. He was as dejected as a frosted eggplant. After losing his position as the chairman of the Yanjin Software Pioneer Park, he could only take a small amount of dividends from the family fund. He couldn't even afford a paint job, let alone a Lamborghini. Qinzhen Yilin, what are you waiting for? Under Zhang Jinghua's urging, Zhang Qinzhen was the first to stand up. He sat on the family lord's chair in a daze. He felt like he was dreaming. Can I do it? Sensing everyone's envious and expectant gazes, Zhang Yilin panicked. She couldn't believe it. I'm an archaeologist. I have nothing to do with the software industry. Moreover, the Yanjin Software Pioneer Park's assets were too huge. It occupied hundreds of acres of land in the South District, and there were dozens of high-tech startups in it. Its chairman was a big shot in the Yanjin business circle. With a stomp of his feet, the entire Yanjin and the software industry would be shaken. One word from him could mobilize billions of assets. He had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. Yilin, you can do it. Everyone will support you. Although Zhang Yue was envious and jealous, she knew that the situation was hopeless. She took the lead with a smile. Yeah. Everyone will support you. Everything can be learned. Isn't it easy to do business? Everyone expressed their support and encouragement. I'll listen to Grandpa's arrangement. The image of Jiang Tian's tall back suddenly appeared in Zhang Yilin's mind. She felt that even if Big Brother Sword and Saber were to come at her, he would still be able to stop them. So, she stood up and sat on the seat that Zhang Danfeng gave her. Congratulations, Yilin. You should be the youngest chairman in Yanjin. Everyone congratulated her, but their hearts were filled with envy. Especially Zhang Danfeng, whose eyes were filled with uneasiness. Zhang Qinzhen was infertile. Zhang Yilin was adopted by them. She was already at the edge of the Zhang family. It could be said that Zhang Yilin was the least valued disciple of the Zhang family. A month ago, she was even punished by the family and was almost beaten to death or frozen to death. However, she had risen to the top and became the leader of Yanjin. Zhang Danfeng, the prodigy of the Zhang family, had become an ordinary person. And all of this was brought about by Jiang Tian. This was what it meant when a man achieves the Tao. In fact, everyone knew that. Zhang Qinzhen was good at scientific research, but he was no match for Zhang Zhonghua when it came to relationships and business. He was even worse than Zhang Danfeng. The old man's arrangement was to curry favor with Jiang Tian and tie Jiang Tian to their battleship. However, Zhang Danfeng was someone who knew when to yield and when to stand tall. He made up his mind that he would climb up from where he fell. Even if he had to be Jiang Taichu's dog, he would still hug his thick thigh. Thank you, everyone. I will work hard. I will do my best. I won't let you down. Hearing everyone's congratulations, Zhang Yilin moved her buttocks and cupped her fists. She was in high spirits, but she gradually clenched her fists, and a trace of undetectable determination appeared in her eyes. Brother, you're too outstanding. You're like a star high up in the sky. If I don't make some achievements, how can I be worthy of being your sister? Zhang Jinghua, accompanied by third granduncle and the others, walked into the study and sat down while they discussed. Third granduncle smiled and said, Jinghua, you've made the right move. Although Jiang Tian has no feelings for the Zhang family and even hates them, his feelings for Qingyan's family are very deep. Qingyan's family is in control now. If the Zhang family has any difficulties in the future, Jiang Tian won't stand by and do nothing. Look at his unfathomable power and his wide circle of friends. The rise of the Zhang family is just around the corner. There's no other way. If I don't do this, I really wonder if the Zhang family can still survive. Zhang Jinghua smiled bitterly and said, I'm really old and blind. The real person is right in front of me, but I can't recognize him. I've underestimated this grandson of mine. Sigh, I don't expect the Zhang family to prosper. It's fine as long as we don't fall. Hee, Zhang Jinghua has given me a difficult problem. You're really old and shrewd. You're as fierce as a tiger. The next day, in the living room of Yuhua Villa, Jiang Tian took a sip of tea, looked at Zhang Chenzhen and his family who were on tenterhooks, and said with a meaningful smile. In fact, the Zhang family was surrounded by wolves and crouching tigers and hidden dragons. The fact that they could stand tall for several decades and even rise slightly in the rankings showed that Zhang Jinghua, Zhang Zhonghua, and Zhang Danfeng weren't fools. Although Zhang Chenzhen said that everything yesterday wasn't the old master's idea, it couldn't be hidden from Jiang Tian. Zhang Zhonghua's actions must have received the old master's approval. When he asked for money yesterday, why didn't Zhang Jinghua and his wife show up? That was because they had left some leeway. The reason why the Zhang family was at odds with Jiang Tian was that they were just a secular family. Their horizons were limited and they couldn't reach that level. There were some things that they could never investigate or come into contact with. After truly understanding Jiang Tian's strength, Zhang Jinghua could be said to have acted decisively and without the slightest hesitation. This operation was swift and fierce enough. This attitude was also clear enough. Chapter 527. Jiang Tian, I'm not going to be the head of the family if you're making things difficult for me. I'll regret it as soon as I make the promise. Shen Xiayen gave Zhang Chenzhen a pinch as he spoke. Shen Xiayen smiled. Jiang Tian, a single silk thread cannot be made into a thread, and a single tree cannot make a forest. It's not that we're greedy for power and wealth, but it's good for you to have your fourth uncle in control of the family. Jiang Tian smiled, but did not say anything. It would be strange if you don't like money and power. You were still wearing Uniqlo a month ago. Why are you wearing a mink coat now? Shen Xiayen smiled. Zhang Zhonghua was supposed to be promoted, but now that all the resources have been allocated to your fourth uncle, Zhang Zhonghua will not be promoted. Your fourth uncle will be promoted to the chief engineer of the military enterprise after the Chinese New Year. Won't that be good for your research and development of weapons? You'll be able to use a lot of resources. Not bad, fourth uncle. You'll be the chief engineer. The military corporation. Jiang Tian was not surprised by the exchange of benefits between the political and business families. He smiled and congratulated Zhang Chenzhen. Jiang Tian understood. Deep down, Zhang Qing'an's fourth uncle's family wanted to be in power. They had been suppressed for too long, and now that they had power in their hands, it was understandable that they would not be able to do as they wished. Zhang Chenzhen quickly said, All right, I agree with all of that. Fourth Uncle Yilin, do your best. Zhang Chenzhen smiled. Your grandparents still hope that you'll be able to come to the Zhang family and celebrate the spring festival together. I don't think so. It's not that I'm prejudiced against the Zhang family, but I'm afraid of crowds. Jiang Tian shook his head and looked at Jiang Zhixing and Zhang Chenzhen. But Dad, Mom, if you want to go, I won't stop you. Zhang Chenzhen could only nod. Sister, brother-in-law, you have to go. Zhang Wanqing hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded slowly. Zhang Yilin smiled. Brother, I don't know anything about managing a business. You have to help me. I can help you. Don't worry. In the future, the Internet Queen of Huaxia will be you. Jiang Tian smiled. In his previous life, in 2012, he was taken away from Earth by his master, the Old Fart, and embarked on the road of cultivation. But that didn't mean that he didn't know anything about the future of Huaxia. Hundreds of years later, when he reached the divine transformation realm, he crossed the void and came to Earth. He took Qing'er's remains and spent several years peacefully on Earth. During that period of time, he had read a lot of business and technological works and looked through a lot of documents. Therefore, he was very familiar with the development of the internet software industry in the next few decades. That's great. Zhang Yilin cheered. Jiang Tian looked at Zhang Chenzhen and said, I know what Zhang Jinghua is thinking. Tell him that without you, the Zhang clan has nothing to do with me. In the Zhang clan, I only acknowledge you. Zhang Chenzhen nodded repeatedly. He knew that with Jiang Tian's words, it could be said that no one could shake his position. In the next few days, Jiang Zhixing and his wife went to the Zhang clan and were warmly welcomed by the Zhang clan. Zhang Zhonghua and other key members, as well as the heads of the various branches, accompanied the couple to inspect the various properties under the Zhang clan. They toured the Forbidden City, the Great Wall of Badaling, and other places respectfully, as if they were important guests. For more than 20 years, Jiang Zhixing and his wife were not recognized and valued by the Zhang clan. They were depressed and felt as if there was a thorn in their heart. Now that they had returned to the Zhang clan, their status was high. It could be said that they were elated and happy. As for Jiang Tian, out of sight, out of mind. He didn't bother to see the Zhang clan and didn't appear in the Zhang clan from beginning to end. On this day, Jiang Tian had just woken up and was sitting on the dragon marrow spirit vein to cultivate when Zhang Chenzhen and his family came with Zhang Danfeng. Jiang Tian, I know you're busy. I shouldn't have troubled you, but there's something I'm afraid you have to do. What is it? Jiang Tian was surprised. The Zhang clan was quite a reputable family in Yanjin. There was nothing they couldn't solve. Yilin was engaged to Han Junkai, the young master of the Han family in Yanjin. But this kid is a rich playboy. He likes to eat, drink, and gamble. Zhang Yilin didn't agree, but he forced her. Zhang Chenzhen said. Beside him, Zhang Yilin lowered her head and wept silently. You clearly know that he is a hedonistic son of rich parents, a useless person. Why did you agree to it back then? Jiang Tian frowned. Our family had lost power in the Zhang clan. The old man had sacrificed Zhang Yilin in exchange for some political and business resources. Zhang Chenzhen lamented. After all, the Han family is one of the top 5 families in Yanjin, second only to the Song family, the Lu family, and the Xia family. At that time, the young master of the Han family didn't even like Zhang Yilin. Although he wasn't very capable, his family had a strong foundation. But now that Yilin has taken control of the Yanjin Software Pioneer Park, the young master of the Han family is jealous and wants to get married before the Spring Festival. Hearing this, Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Zhang Yilin is now the chairman of the Yanjin Software Pioneer Park and owns a lot of shares. With just a word, she can mobilize billions or even tens of billions of assets. Even if the Han family doesn't take it by force, it's already impressive if they use it. Zhang Danfeng added, even though the Yanjin Software Pioneer Park is not a listed company, it has issued a lot of shares during its construction. The shares are very scattered. Now, many of the shares of the minority shareholders have been bought out. After some investigation, we found out that the Han family is behind it. So, the other party has made a substantial move? Jiang Tian frowned and said. A few days ago, Han Junkai invited Yilin out and harassed her. Luckily, Zhang Huchen followed them all the way and nothing happened. Zhang Danfeng said. He has a death wish. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows. A golden murderous intent flashed in his eyes. His face was as gloomy as water. At that time, Huchen and Han Junkai had a conflict. Zhang Yilin also expressed that she wanted to reconsider the marriage. Han Junkai then threatened to make the Zhang family suffer. Zhang Danfeng said, in a moment of desperation, Yilin told him about your relationship with the Zhang family, but he didn't believe her at all. Then, the Zhang family made a move in the financial circle. The Han family is powerful. We can't afford to offend them. They'll devour the Zhang family. Shen Xiaoyan was anxious and helpless. She said with a sobbing voice, Jiang Tian, you love Yilin the most. I won't hide it from you. Yilin agreed to this marriage because of you. Mom, don't say any more. Zhang Yilin quickly stopped her. But Jiang Tian already knew what was going on. Fourth uncle's family had lost power. Zhang Yilin wanted to help him and the Jiang family at such a young age. Thinking of this, Jiang Tian's heart was moved. He smiled and said, Don't worry, I will take care of this matter. Thank you, brother. I've troubled you. Zhang Yilin's eyes were filled with joy. But canceling the marriage will still embarrass the other party. Jiang Tian, you have to be careful with your words. Zhang Chenzhen said worriedly. Don't worry, I've had my marriage annulled before. I know where the minefield is. I have experience in handling it. Jiang Tian laughed. The other party was pressing him hard. He could not afford to delay. Jiang Tian did as he said. That morning, Jiang Tian brought forth uncle's family and Zhang Danfeng to visit the Han family. Along the way, Zhang Danfeng introduced the Han family. Although the Han family was not a martial arts family, their ancestors were at the level of a great leader. After decades of hard work, the Han family had great influence in the energy mining industry in Huaxia. Their influence was not only in Yanjin, but also in Beha province and Jin province. The current head of the Han family, Han Badian, was the second-generation descendant of the Han family. He was already 70 years old. He used to be a descendant of the military and was the spiritual leader of the older generation in Yanjin. He had a complicated background and a wide network. In terms of strength, the Han family was ranked in the top 5 in Yanjin. Even the Zhang family was a far cry from them. Han Juansai's generation was already the 4th generation. When Jiang Tian was still on the road, the Han family heard that the Zhang family had come to discuss the marriage. They were all summoned to the meeting room. Not only the Han family, but many higher-ups also came. Moreover, those who were on good terms with the Han family or those who relied on the Han family were also invited and were distributed in the courtyard. In a tea room, the current head of the Han family, Han Badian, sat at the head of the table and smiled smugly. Zhang Jinghua is smart. The Han family has always been close to Lin Fengyan's family. After the battle at Xianglu Mountain, they have also realized the terrifying power of martial artists. Sitting down, Han Junfeng, who was dressed in a custom-made suit, looked at Han Junkai and said with a smile, Don't worry. Zhang Yilin hasn't even graduated from university. How can she control Yanjin? Junkai, you have to be smart and help her a few times to gain her trust. Within 10 years, you have to think of a way to snatch the shares of the Yanjing Software Pioneer Park and take control of it. This will be a great contribution to you. Han Junfeng was the young talent of the 4th generation of the Han family. He was also the spiritual leader of the younger generation in Yanjin. His strength, prospects, and influence far surpassed Zhang Danfeng and the others. Only Lu Lishuan, the young master of the Lu family, the top family in the mortal world, could obviously suppress him. Han Junfeng was only 30 years old, but he was already at the helm of the Jin Ning Group under the Ministry of Energy. He was comparable to the old central enterprises such as the Huaning National Film Academy. According to the Administrative Division of State-Owned Enterprises, this young head of the Jin Ning Group was a true deputy minister. Even if the Administrative Division of State-Owned Enterprises was abolished one day, few people in the circle of rich people in Beijing would dare to underestimate Han Junfeng. Don't worry, brother. I just signed up for the EMBA CEO class at Qing University. There are a few professors who are experts in capital operation and equity management. Zhang Yilin is an idiot. Getting the shares of the Yanjin Software Pioneer Park is as easy as taking something out of her pocket. Beside him, Han Junkai crossed his legs and shook his Italian custom-made leather shoes that were studded with rhinestones as he smiled proudly. Han Juansai's clothes were very luxurious, but his behavior was frivolous and his temperament was superficial. His body had been hollowed out by alcohol, women, and wealth. Chapter 528. Well, I will tell them later. Mr. Lin Fengyan will be the witness, and the Zhang family won't dare to do anything to him. Han Batian sipped his tea like a wise Mr. Zhuge. Then he lamented, What a pity. Old Master Lin said that we can't invite Kong Teichu. Otherwise, we would be in a different league. Don't worry about it. Han Junfeng cracked a smile and said, Uncle Lin has already told Master Kong about Jin Ning's discovery of the flower in Sidoni. I heard that Master Kong was overjoyed and said that he would leave after the spring festival. With that thought in mind, Han Beishan's heart was filled with excitement. He said in a deep voice, "When the time comes, I will accompany him and take good care of him. How can I not be on good terms with Kang Taechu? Today is the engagement day. Who from the Lin family will be here?" One of the uncles in the seat asked curiously. "Lin Fengmian's beloved son, Lin Tianlan." Han Batian said. The entire place turned solemn, and everyone was shocked. "I heard that Lin Tianlan has just finished his seclusion and he is already a transcendent master. He is only 31 years old and he has already reached such a level of cultivation. What an amazing talent! Lin Tianlan's presence brings light to our humble dwelling." A few seconds later, the sounds of discussion could be heard. Many of the Han family disciples present felt extremely honored. Their expressions were filled with excitement as they cried out in surprise. In fact, before Jiang Tian's rise, they had been estranged from the Lin family. However, when Kang Taechu's achievements began to spread to these secular families, they respected the martial arts Lin family even more. They had heard that an immortal state warrior could defeat an army by himself. Now that the Lin family was close to Kang Taechu, they couldn't afford to offend him. "You must treat him well. Don't be rude. This Lin Dunlan might become the second Kang Taechu." Han Daod, the father of Han Junkai and the head of the Han Financial Group, said in a deep voice. "Watch your mouth." Hearing this, Han Batian was so frightened that his whole body trembled. In the entire martial arts world of Huaxia, there is only one arbiter, and that is Kang Taechu. If your words were to spread to the outside world, I'm afraid it would cause a lot of trouble. Everyone had a look of fear on their faces, and the entire place was strangely silent. Kang Taechu. These three words had already become a taboo in many secular clans. On the incense furnace peak, he killed 11 deities with one sword and destroyed the Bai family that had dominated Yanjin for hundreds of years, forcing the 6 top families to submit to him. Although the Han family had great influence in the secular world and could barely be ranked 5th, how could they compare to such a terrifying existence that could dominate the world and suppress an entire country? It was said that Kang Taechu was extremely powerful and could control the power of heaven and earth. He could fight against a country alone and shake an army. What was even more terrifying was that this person was ruthless and ruthless. He would kill people at the slightest provocation. No matter how rich and powerful the Han family was, could they be compared to the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society and the 28th Mixed Army and Air Force? Could they be compared to the Bai family that had 11 deities? If they offended him, their entire family would be quietly wiped out without even knowing how they died. However, Han Daod smiled contemptuously and said proudly, "Father, you don't have to be too afraid of Kang Taechu. He has the power to destroy the world, but he wouldn't dare to offend a top political and business family like us. You have to know that martial artists have a treaty that forbids them from wantonly killing people in the secular world, trampling on the law, and disrupting the order of the secular world." "But father, why would he dare to destroy the Bai family?" Han Junfeng asked in confusion. "Every circle has its own rules. The government won't interfere with the fighting and killing between martial artists. Basically, if the people don't report it, the government won't investigate. The Bai family and the Fu family are both martial arts families." Han Daod said. "Oh, I see. In other words, this treaty that martial artists are not allowed to disrupt the order of the secular world separates martial artists from the secular world." Everyone nodded and revealed an enlightened expression. So, under normal circumstances, martial artists are very wary of the political and business families of the secular world. Basically, they will protect, rope in, and use them. They won't act recklessly. Han Daod said, "The Bai family used the same strategy in the past. Otherwise, wouldn't the world be in chaos?" Han Batian frowned and said, "Even so, we've never met Kang Taechu before. Moreover, it's said that this person is ruthless and merciless. He would kill people at the slightest provocation. It's better to be careful." Jiang, "No, Brother Tian, this is the Han family mansion." About half an hour later, the BMW X5 stopped in front of a mansion in the 4th Ring Road. Zhang Danfeng looked at the mansion enviously. It was a magnificent mansion, built in an antique style, with red walls and yellow glazed tiles. It was filled with a classical aura, occupying half of the street and stretching for 400 to 500 meters. In front of the vermilion lacquer door, which was inlaid with brass rivets the size of teacups, there were two ferocious-looking stone lions squatting on both sides. In 2010, the Fourth Ring Road had become very prosperous. There was a lot of traffic and high-rise buildings. It could be said that every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. The Han family is quite powerful. Seeing this, Jiang Tian sneered. In Yanjin, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, this small mansion took up a huge area. If this was not wealth, then what was? One should know that if this mansion was demolished and the land was sold, they could easily get tens of billions. Compared to the Han family mansion, the old mansion of the Zhang family was like a grass nest. It was not worth mentioning. It was no wonder that Zhang Danfeng was envious. Young Master Zhang, please wait for a moment. I'll go in and report. Seeing Jiang Tian walking in, the bodyguard at the door politely stopped him. However, there was a flash of disdain in his eyes. Zhang Danfeng was a little annoyed. The Han family's rules were quite strict. Damn it, you're talking to Kang Taichu. Just as he was about to lose his temper, Jiang Tian nodded and said, okay, then I'll have to trouble you to report it. When the bodyguard went in to report, a silver Maserati stopped at the door. A man wearing branded clothes and an expensive watch with a Hermes belt around his waist walked out. Isn't this Jiang Tian, young Master Jiang? The man suddenly stopped in his tracks and stared at Jiang Tian for a moment. Then he suddenly let out a mocking smile. Do we know each other? Jiang Tian looked sideways and saw that the man was wearing a suit and leather shoes. He looked like a successful businessman. Next to him was a girl with exquisite makeup. She was wearing an expensive mink coat. Her makeup was exquisite, and her chin was held high. Her face was full of arrogance. Jiang Tian had some impression of the girl. She seemed to be a female celebrity in China. Hey, you're so forgetful. Seeing that Jiang Tian didn't recognize him, the man put his hands in his pockets and laughed disdainfully. Have you forgotten how servile you were in front of the Song family's young miss? Oh, so it's Boss Hu. Jiang Tian suddenly remembered this person. A trace of imperceptible sharpness flashed through his eyes. Boss Hu was the coal boss of Jin province. He was a famous tycoon in the local area. He was at least in the top 10. This kind of coal boss relied on political and business connections to make money. He had to stay in Yanjing for at least half a year. When Jiang Tian came to Yanjing to meet Song Shuangyan, he often appeared around the younger generation of the Song family. He was the spendthrift boss who paid the bill. Perhaps it was because of the Song family's hint, this Hu Yibo, who had a net worth of 10 billion at that time, repeatedly mocked and humiliated Jiang Tian. He brought endless humiliation to Jiang Tian. The reason why Song Shuangyan and the others did this was probably to let Jiang Tian understand the gap between him and the Song family and retreat. Look, your Jiang family's assets are only a few billion. It's not even comparable to the Song family's henchmen. If Jiang Tian took the initiative to retreat, the Song clan would not have to go back on their word and break the engagement. Hu Yibo sneered. Brother Jiang, you can't make friends with the Song family, so you want to make friends with the Han family? It's not that easy to enter the Han family's gate. It took me 20 years to enter the Han family's gate. If you want to make friends with them, work hard for another 20 years. After saying that, Hu Yibo walked towards the Han family's gate with his little celebrity lover. Boss Hu, you're here. Please come in. Several bodyguards obviously recognized Hu Yibo and immediately invited him in warmly. The Han family is trying to show us who's boss. How can the surnamed Hu compare to me? Seeing this scene, Zhang Danfeng was so angry that his face turned ashen. He gritted his teeth and fanned the flames in front of Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian wasn't moved. He even lit a cigarette and leisurely smoked. Brother Tian, aren't you going to do it? Zhang Danfeng was confused. Isn't it just a matter of minutes for you to flatten the Han family? Try peaceful means before resorting to force. Do you know how to destroy a person's confidence? Jiang Tian said calmly. Let them be arrogant first. When the enemy is at his most arrogant, then give him a fatal blow and trample him under his feet. When Hu Yibo walked into the Han family's mansion, many heads of the Han family's branches and rich bosses from all over the country came to greet him. Among them, there was no lack of mayors and other officials. There were also famous people on the list of the world's richest people. It's called a marriage alliance, but it's actually annexation. I heard that Zhang Yilin hasn't even graduated from university. She's just a little girl. She's easy to control. Young Master Han has Zhang Yilin under his thumb. When the time comes and Zhang Yilin becomes the head of the family, the entire Zhang family will fall into the hands of the Han family. If it really happens, then the Han family will have control over both the mining and military industries. Their words will carry a lot of weight in Huaxia. I'm afraid that they will be able to compete with the Lu family, Song family, and Xia family. The people in the Han family's camp were all paying attention and discussing this marriage alliance. They were all very pleased with themselves. The Zhang family is here. Young Master Han is here to welcome them. Someone shouted, and everyone turned to look at the main hall. They saw Han Junfeng, surrounded by Han Junkai and the other disciples, striding out in a majestic manner. Uncle Zhang Yilin, Danfeng, thank you for your hard work. Congratulations on becoming the head of the family, Uncle Chenjian. Congratulations. Han Junfeng cupped his fists and greeted Jiang Tian and the others with a joyful expression. Chapter 529. Han Junfeng was indeed one of the most talented young men in Yanjin. He was like a royal descendant of the heavens. His presence easily overpowered Zhang Chenjian, Zhang Danfeng and many other tycoons. He is the prince of the Han family. He is so handsome. Look at this image, this or. In a blink of an eye, many socialites looked at him with infatuation. Why didn't the lord of the Han family come out? A tycoon asked. He came out to welcome Zhang Chenjian and Zhang Danfeng? That's too embarrassing. The Zhang family's ranking is almost in the top 20. Even if Zhang Jinghua came in person, Han Junfeng would be giving him face by receiving him. Someone at the side laughed disdainfully. Nice to meet you, Lord Han. Zhang Chenjian knew that the Han family was looking down on him. However, he was not a talkative person. After they shook hands, he introduced Jiang Tian. This is the Prince of Medicine King Group, Jiang Tian. He is Yilin's cousin and is very close to Yilin. Today, he is the representative of the Zhang family to discuss the marriage with the Han family. Mr. Jiang from Medicine King Group? I have heard a lot about you. I have heard that Mr. Jiang is an expert in the art of medicine. You are very famous in South Korea for defeating the TKM application. Han Junfeng smiled and shook hands with Jiang Tian. However, a glint of suspicion flashed in his eyes. Zhang Chenjian and Danfeng were both here. Why would he be the one to discuss the marriage with Han Junfeng? Nice to meet you, Lord Han. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. After shaking hands with Han Junfeng, he extended his hand to shake hands with Han Junkai. However, Han Junkai looked at Chen Fan with disdain and pretended that he was talking to someone else. Jiang Tian furrowed his brows but did not overreact. Among the crowd, a beautiful woman scoffed. Does he deserve to be called the prince in front of Lord Han? What a joke! What a frog in a well! How dare they use the title of a small place to embarrass themselves in Beijing? What an arrogant fool! The others all curled their lips, their faces full of disdain, as if Jiang Tian was a swindler fishing for fame. In the eyes of the top nobles of Huaxia, a medical family or a scholarly family was not even worth mentioning. The voices of these people were not soft. Jiang Tian's mind was tranquil. How could he care about the provocation of these ants? When Zhang Chenjian and the others heard this, they frowned and looked at Han Junfeng, hoping that he would say something. But Han Junfeng acted as if he didn't hear it. He smiled and greeted, "Everyone, please come in." The group of people came to a reception hall and sat down. The servants served fragrant tea and snacks. After some small talk, Han Junfeng smiled and said, "Mr. Jiang, our Han family hopes to hold the wedding as soon as possible and get things done. Let's discuss the specific process. Jiang Tian shook his head lightly and said, "Young Master Han, to tell you the truth, I'm here today to cancel the engagement." Annul the engagement? Han Junkai was stunned and said in disbelief, "Are you sure you're not wrong? Shouldn't you be begging me to marry your cousin?" "Mr. Jiang, is there something wrong with my ears?" Han Juanfeng's face also stiffened, and a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. He then forced a smile and said, "You said, cancel the engagement?" "Yes, that's right, cancel the engagement." Jiang Tian said lightly, "Fuck? What the fuck?" Han Junkai was furious and smiled sinisterly. "Is the Zhang family making fun of us? Trampling on the Han family's face? Do you know that I can annihilate the Zhang clan with just a word?" Han Junfeng frowned and scolded, "Junkai, don't be rude to the guests. We can talk about it slowly." Han Junkai was still quite afraid of this big brother, so he held back his anger and didn't speak. But he stared at Jiang Tian and the other Zhang family members with a murderous gaze. "I know Yilin is very outstanding, and now she has Yen Ruan under her control. She is a Yanjin socialite. My brother is ignorant and incompetent, and he is indeed trying to climb the social ladder." Han Junfeng was indeed one of the most powerful people in Yanjin. He quickly calmed down and said with a smile, "I will train him well. After the new year, he will be the head of the strategic investment department of the Goldneng Group. I believe that he will grow up very quickly." "That's right. Do you think I am not good enough for her?" Han Junkai shook his shiny shoes and said proudly, "This is not a matter of whether you are good enough for her or not." Jiang Tian said lightly, "Zhang Yilin has no feelings for you, so this engagement must be cancelled. Of course, we will also compensate you appropriately. A few $100 million is not a problem. If you feel embarrassed, then you can announce the cancellation of the engagement. How about this?" Jiang Tian's words gave the Han clan a lot of face. He also took care of the benefits. He could be said to be extremely benevolent. Han Junfeng smiled and said, "Jiang Tian, you may not know this, but the marriage between the Zhang family and the Han family is in line with the strategic interests of the two families. It was also decided by my grandfather and Mr. Zhang Jinghua. The benefits are not just a few $100 million or a few billion. Also, if Yilin and my brother can get married, then the Jiang family will be relatives of the Han family. How can I treat the Jiang family unfairly? With me around, no one would dare to mess with the Jiang family and the Medicine King Group. Lord Han, Yilin is like a sister to me. All I want is for her to be happy." Jiang Tian stood up, bowed slightly and cupped his fists. "You can name any conditions you want, but this engagement must be cancelled. I hope Lord Han can fulfill my wish. Cousin." Seeing this scene, Zhang Yilin's tears instantly burst out. What kind of person was her cousin? He could suppress a country by himself, and his reputation as a martial arts adjudicator shook the world. Even Chen Zifen was suppressed by him in Yanjin. He had killed 11 gods and destroyed the Bai family. Many top families in Yanjin had to kneel down and submit to him. How domineering was that? How glorious and peerless was that? How peerless was that? However, he was willing to put down his dignity and beg Han Junfeng for her sake. Is this also the Zhang family's decision? Seeing this, Han Junfeng's sharp gaze swept over Zhang Chenjian and the others. Zhang Chenjian and Zhang Danfeng nodded. Seeing Jiang Tian lower his head, Han Junfeng despised Jiang Tian even more, but he was also getting angry. "Jiang Tian, do you know what the consequences are for humiliating the Han family in Yanjin?" He suddenly laughed out loud. His slightly widened eyes suddenly turned cold as he said in a cold voice, "That's right. If I wanted to deal with the Zhang family in Beijing, I could do it with a wave of my hand. It would be a piece of cake." He leaned against the sofa and grinned. "But seeing how sincere you are, I don't want to take care of you. I want 20% of the shares of the Yenro Group. Jiang Tian, if you want to stand up for your sister, then I want 10% of the shares of the Medicine King Group." "Han Junfeng, are you robbing me?" Hearing this, Zhang Yilin flew into a rage. She was so angry that her whole body trembled. She pointed at Han Junfeng and shouted angrily. Lord Feng, that's too much. Zhang Danfeng's face also darkened. He frowned and said, the Zhang family only has 20% of the shares of the Yenro Group. 10% of the shares of the Medicine King Group is worth over 10 billion. You are too greedy. Jiang Tian was slightly stunned, and then he laughed out of extreme anger. Han Junfeng, I've done my best and given you enough face. If you continue to cause trouble, then don't blame me for being merciless. Fallout? Show it to me. Han Junfeng said with a disdainful smile. Little girl, do you know who you are talking to? Seeing that Jiang Tian was being disrespectful and Zhang Yilin was pointing at his brother, Han Junfeng sneered. Even if Zhang Jinghua were here, he wouldn't dare to call my brother's name. If it weren't for the Han family, the Zhang family and the Jiang family would have been swallowed by the Song family. Zhang Yilin, I don't know how many socialites and heiresses in Yanjin and the northern provinces want to marry me. Letting you marry me, it was your grandfather who bitterly begged for it. He pointed at Zhang Yilin and said disdainfully, who do you think you are? I heard that you went to the nightclub to drink and sleep with Jiang Tian to save him. I don't know how many men you have slept with. Are you some kind of chaste woman? It is your blessing that I am willing to marry you. Cherish it. Yilin. Hearing this, Jiang Tian's heart surged. He looked at Zhang Yilin with pity and surprise. He knew that Zhang Yilin had suffered a lot for him, but he had never thought that Zhang Yilin would suffer so much. Brother, I didn't sleep with anyone. I didn't let anyone touch me. Seeing Jiang Tian looking over, Zhang Yilin felt extremely wronged and sad in her heart. She burst into tears, tears falling like rain. Don't be sad. Jiang Tian rubbed her little head, then a golden light flashed in his eyes. He looked at Han Junkai and scolded harshly. Kneel down and apologize to Zhang Yilin, and I will spare your life. Jiang Tian used the demonic dragon roar and the sound was like a thunderclap. Suddenly, the entire courtyard was shaken. Many guests were drinking tea and chatting in the courtyard. Even the chairman of the Han group, Han Daod, stood up and looked at the direction of the hall. Why are they quarreling? Han Batian frowned but didn't take it to heart. Daod, go and have a look. Okay. As soon as Han Daod walked out, all the guests in the Han family mansion were startled. They all walked toward the hall where Jiang Tian was. Is it the young Lord Jiang you know? Is he trying to stir up trouble? Hu Yiba's celebrity girlfriend's face turned pale. She pulled his arm and said nervously, the Medicine King Group is only worth a few hundred billion, and the Jiang Tian's shares are only worth a few hundred billion. How can Jiang Tian challenge the Han family? He is scared to death. Hu Yiba laughed disdainfully as if he had seen through a fire. The Han family's assets are worth a few hundred billion. They are secretly rich and have been around for decades. This is the Han family mansion. There are surveillance cameras everywhere and dozens of armed bodyguards. I heard that they even have a martial arts master. Even an internal force master would have to die, let alone a nouveau riche like Jiang Tian. A martial arts master. The Han family is so powerful that they have a legendary martial arts master. The little star covered her cherry red lips with her small hands and cried out. Her eyes were full of worship. The two of them also got up and hurriedly walked to the front of the living room. Chapter 530. Jiang Tian didn't use his full power, so everyone calmed down after a brief moment of dizziness. Today, the Han family had gathered many guests, but they were greeted by the news that the engagement had been annulled. Who do you think you are? I call you Mr. Jiang because I respect you. If I don't respect you, you are just a country bumpkin. How could the arrogant Han Junkai stand it? He flew into a rage and directly pulled out a pistol, slammed it on the table and cursed, "Damn it! How dare you make me kneel in front of the Han family? Do you want to die? Kneel down before me, or I will kill you. Zhang Yilin, that bitch, I will fuck her every time I see her. Cousin." Zhang Yilin grabbed Jiang Tian's hand with fear in her eyes. Han Junkai thought that Zhang Yilin was afraid, But they didn't know that Zhang Yilin was worried that Jiang Tian would destroy the Han family. Jiang Tian was not afraid of bullets. He was a terrifying existence that could wipe out the Bai family with a single word. Han Junkai took out his gun in front of Jiang Tian. He must be tired of living. "Ha, Zhang Yilin, are you afraid now? What have you been doing?" Han Junkai sneered. "Zhang Yilin, you are too stubborn. It was supposed to be a happy occasion, but it has turned into a funeral." Han Junfeng sighed and shook his head in disappointment. As the crown prince of the Medicine King, Jiang Tian was a powerful figure in the eyes of ordinary people. However, in Han Junfeng's eyes, he was just an ant that he could kill easily. Not to mention that his younger brother was threatening him with a gun. Even if he really killed him, he could just find a martyr to take the blame. What could the Jiang family and the Zhang family do? Yes, it is going to be a funeral. Hearing that Han Junkai was threatening Zhang Yilin, Jiang Tian was annoyed. He gently pried Zhang Yilin's hand away, took a step forward, and sighed regretfully. He sighed and said, "I am here to solve the problem. I have shown you enough respect, but you don't know your place. If so, don't blame me for being merciless. There are so many people in the Han family. I wonder if you have prepared enough coffins." Jiang Tian's tone was very calm, but the murderous intent on his face grew heavier and heavier. A frightening light flickered in his pupils. "What did you say? This is the Han clan. You can't just..." Hearing this, Han Junkai was enraged. He stood up, grabbed the gun, and aimed at Jiang Tian. But Jiang Tian raised his hand and slapped him. Han Junkai flew out of the door like a rag doll, smashing into a fake mountain before falling to the ground. "Jiang, how dare you hit me?" Seeing this, Han Junfeng was shocked and angry. His face darkened and he shouted loudly, "Where are the bodyguards? Where is Brother Cheng? Hurry up and come in and take care of this brat for me." "Master Feng, it's here. He's here." When the bodyguard captain, Lai Shenxiang, who was guarding outside, saw this, he immediately rushed in with a dozen bodyguards and glared fiercely at Jiang Tian. He hated that this kid was too arrogant. How dare he hit someone in the Han family, especially Han Junkai? Many important people in the Han family had come to congratulate him. After this incident, he could forget about his bonus for the year. He might even be kicked out of the Han family. "Kill this kid. Son of a bitch, how dare you cause trouble in the Han family? Do you know where you are?" Without waiting for Han Junfeng's order, Lai Shenxiang and many of his men charged at Jiang Tian with batons, swords, and other weapons in their hands. Their faces were ferocious and their attacks were merciless. It was as if they wanted to cut Jiang Tian into pieces to vent their anger. "Get lost." In response, Jiang Tian only waved his hand casually. Boom! With a bang, a surging force was released. This invisible force was like the palm of a giant spirit god. It was unstoppable and possessed the power to destroy everything in its path. Swish! Lai Shenxiang was the first to be hit. It was as if he had been hit by a high-speed train. Blood spurted out and his body was torn into pieces. Swish! 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 The dozen bodyguards flew out of the door in different postures. All of them were bleeding from their 7 orifices and their bones were broken. They had completely lost their ability to fight. The terrifying force didn't stop there. Crack, crack. The solid wooden floor cracked, and then the wooden door, stairs, and stone pillars were all smashed into a mess. The terrifying force pushed them more than 10 meters into the courtyard, and even the rockery shook violently before collapsing with a loud rumble. The entire place was silent. Han Junfeng and a few of the younger members of the Han family, Zhang Qinzhen and the other members of the Zhang family were dumbfounded. It was as if Jiang Tian had thrown out a bulldozer with a wave of his hand, crushing the floor, smashing through the door lintel, then continuously smashing through the flower beds, stone pillars, stairs, decorations, and finally smashing through the fake mountain. It spread from Jiang Tian's feet to the fake mountain pond. It was as if a bulldozer had pushed through it. It was a mess. Jiang Tian had only used 30% of his strength, but it was terrifying to such an extent. Jiang Tian walked leisurely to the ashen-faced Han Junfeng and said lightly, "I gave you a chance before, but you didn't cherish it. Don't blame me. Fuck. This kid is a martial artist. No matter how arrogant Han Junfeng was or how powerful his family background was, he couldn't help but tremble in fear. His limbs were cold and he was panicking. He was just an ordinary person. When had he ever seen such monstrous power? It was as if he was a demon god. It was also at this moment that an explosive shout rang out. Han Dowd had arrived just in time. He was surrounded by a group of extraordinary rich and high-ranking officials. Han Dowd was like a lion patrolling its territory. He had a stern demeanor and walked over with a majestic gait. Seeing him come in person, the Han family members were overjoyed. Han Junfeng acted as if he had seen his savior. He quickly shouted, "Dad." Behind Han Dowd were the family head Han Batian and other high-ranking officials of the Han family. The leaders of the various branches and Hu Yibo were also there to congratulate him. "Jiang Tian, my father is here. Even the family head is here. Let's see how long you can be so arrogant." Han Junfeng smirked smugly. Seeing this, Zhang Danfeng quickly stepped forward and said in a threatening tone, "Uncle Han, to be honest, this is Jiang. Get out of my way." Han Dowd was furious when he saw his son's injured state. He raised his hand and slapped Zhang Danfeng. Han Dowd used to be the minister of the Huaxia Petroleum Group and then the second in command of the National Energy Commission. He was on the same level as Zhang Zhonghua and had far more influence in the political world. Even when he saw Zhang Zhonghua, he did not show any respect, let alone Zhang Zhonghua's son. In his rage, he directly slapped him. Zhang Danfeng was a smooth and slick person. He didn't want to ruin their relationship, so he wanted to tell Han Dowd about Jiang Tian's real identity to intimidate him. However, he didn't expect that his good intentions would be taken for granted and he was slapped for nothing. "Alright, Uncle Han, I'll get out of your way. You'll regret it later." He wasn't angry at all. Instead, he sneered and stepped aside, gloating over Han Dowd's misfortune. "Did you hit him?" Han Dowd ignored him and only stared fixedly at Jiang Tian, his face full of resentment. Many of the surrounding guests looked at Jiang Tian with shock and bewilderment. They didn't expect this young man to be so powerful. Was he going to destroy the Han family? However, even if he had some skills, he shouldn't have acted rashly in front of the Han family. I remember when he was facing the daughter of the Song family, he knew when to advance and retreat. Why is his temper so bad now? You think you're so great just because you made a small fortune? Do you think you can compete with the Han family just because you have a few billion? Hu Yibo looked at Jiang Tian coldly and shook his head mockingly, as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. After listening to Zhang Yilin's explanation of the Han family's identity, Jiang Tian looked at Han Junfeng and said with a cold smile, "Do you all think that you can save this bastard just because the few of you came?" Han Junfeng was shocked and had a bad premonition. "Jiang, do you still dare to hit people? Congratulations, you even know how to answer first." Jiang Tian snorted and waved his hand as if he was brushing away dust. Kaboom! Han Junfeng flew out like a rag doll. He crashed into an antique shelf and the back wall before he slowly slid down. He had broken countless bones all over his body. He was in so much pain that he rolled on the ground and screamed like a dying dog. "You're so arrogant." Everyone's expression changed. Han Dowd was even more furious. He gritted his teeth and the muscles on his cheeks twitched as if he wanted to eat Jiang Tian alive. The former chairman of the Huaxia Petroleum Group with assets of 7 trillion was really angry. Even Zhang Danfeng, Zhang Chenzhen and Zhang Yilin were stunned. They had heard of Jiang Tian's domineering and aggressive style, but seeing it for themselves was better than hearing 100 times. The shock they felt at this moment was incomparably real. Now I've finally seen Kong Teichu's peerless demeanor. He even dared to hit Han Junfeng. Awesome. Zhang Danfeng was full of admiration. Then he felt a sense of balance in his heart. Even Han Junfeng and his brother were beaten by him. What's the big deal about me? So, you're a martial arts master. But do you think you can come to the Han family with just that little bit of martial arts? Han Dao gritted his teeth and grinned. He then turned to an old man and said, "Brother Zhang. Leave it to me, Chairman Han. My broadsword is thirsty for blood." The old man grinned as his battle chi surged and he stepped out of the crowd. He was wearing a black jacket, old cloth shoes, a waist belt and leggings. He carried a red tasseled broadsword on his back, which was very different from the people around him who were dressed in suits and leather shoes. His hair was already white and he was in his 60s. However, when he opened and closed his eyes, he was full of vigor and walked like the wind. This is the master of the 5 Tigers Blade art, Zhang Shisan. I heard that he can already release broadsword chi. He is a real grandmaster of martial arts. He can dominate anywhere. Seeing that he was about to attack, Hu Yibo suddenly narrowed his eyes and whispered to his female celebrity lover. Those who had some understanding of the martial arts world were shocked when they heard Hu Yibo's words. A grandmaster was like a divine dragon. They were characters in the clouds, high and mighty. Zhang Shisan was so powerful that he could be called a grandmaster. However, he was in charge of the Han family. I heard that the reason why the Han family has been standing for decades is that they have such a great grandmaster. It should be him. Someone exclaimed with a strange look in his eyes. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.